Now, I agree that in absolute terms, maybe we will have to pay a higher price than the Pakistanis. But if you look at it in relative terms, given the size of the economies of the two countries and the economic wherewithal of the two countries, I think the cost for the Pakistanis will be just as high. Secondly, I think if the Pakistanis were to target any defense installation, then of course all bets are off. I don't think the government in India will have any choice but to start targeting Pakistani military bases. And if they can target our headquarters, brigade, or unit level, or even higher level, division level, then so can we target this. So it's not as though their targets, their bases are invulnerable and ours are vulnerable.
No, but
so I think that's the game two can play. And I'm sure the Pakistanis understand that.
right.
So the question is, what else are they likely to do? Now, one possibility is that they will drop some bombs in some place where not much damage is caused, and they can claim that these were so-called terror training camps, as they have been alleging for a fair bit of time, of Baloch or some other militants who are being trained in India. We know that's utter trash, but they could use that as a possible thing, or else they could even don't be surprised, and there's pure speculation. They could say that, okay, fine, we've targeted some RSS headquarters somewhere, or some RSS camp somewhere, because we consider RSS to be a terrorist organization. Now, that is the kind of scurrilous propaganda that the Pakistanis have been carrying out for a fair bit of time. I'm not saying that is what they will do, but don't rule it out.
That is something, Sushant Sareen, they don't need to do overnight. Right now, in terms of a kinetic escalation, Pakistan does not have the money in the bank. The IMF bailout is due 2 days from now. There is international pressure to de-escalate. The Pakistanis are masters at playing this waiting game. They're still avenging 71. They're still waiting. Every time that 99 ke baad, they came back 2 years later. Then they came back 5 years later. Then they came back 7 years later. And they come with their proxies. They don't need to come into a direct kinetic engagement with Bharat, because every time they get beaten. This is their mentality. Sorry, Sushantji, I've just come back to you. We've got more inputs coming through. There is firing on from both sides along the LOC. The LOC is hot even after daybreak. Defense sources are saying that the BFS has been put on high alert along the western border. Arunima joining us with more details. So intermittent firing and heavy arm firing is on even after daybreak. Yes, Arunima.
Yes, all across the line of control. We've seen fighting happen last night, shelling happening in peace, where at least 3 civilians have been killed in Pakistan's firing ceasefire violation. It's also happening along the LOC in North Kashmir. Reports are coming in, and this hasn't stopped even after daybreak. Intermittent firing is still going on, is what defense officials are telling me. And this intermittent firing is being retaliated by India as well, all along the western border. While Jammu and Kashmir is at the center of the current ceasefire violation, all along the western border, the border security force is also on high alert. So in Gujarat, in Rajasthan, in Punjab, the airspace in Punjab border airports have also been shut down. There is an air advisory that the Chandigarh airport also may not be functional till the next update comes. In Rajasthan, there is an air exercise, scheduled air exercise that is going on. Border security force is keeping a heightened alert currently in Rajasthan and Gujarat sector as well, because the thing is that even though India says that the action taken was de-escalatory in nature, the kind of statements coming in from Pakistan are very provocative, and India, of course, does not want to take any chances.
They will make only provocative statements, but 100 kilometers across Bahawalpur is Rajasthan. So that's the reason why there is also activity there. And this entire air activity, movement of air fleets towards Bahawalpur, perhaps on hindsight, there was a reason why there was so much of activity that was happening. And it has all happened in such a way, it's called the Pakistanis unaware. Sushantji, coming back to you. Thank you, Arunima. Sushantji, coming back to you, and we'll take this conversation forward with Air Marshal and also General Dua. This aspect of the Pakistanis ready to go down to whatever wild levels of engagement is concerned. They fought this proxy war. And can they take the humiliation in the near term, because it's in their interest and they can't afford a larger escalation? But should we now have to be perennially on alert? Sushant Sareen and then the others. Yes, please make your point.
Anand, I'm a little surprised that you say that do we now have to be perennially on the alert? I thought that's a no-brainer. I thought that's a no-brainer since 1947. That's a no-brainer since 1965 and since 71, and the terrorism that has been imposed on us or inflicted on us by the Pakistanis for decades now. So yes, we have to be eternally vigilant. We have to be prepared, and yes, now the scale of what things might happen could go up. But the Pakistanis also know this, that if they were to do something like this again using their proxies, then the reaction from the Indian side will be just what it was last night. So that's not going to be any different. But to come back to their economic vulnerabilities, see, if I was a Pakistani, I would be calculating that as of now, there doesn't seem to be any pressure on me that the IMF or some of the other multilateral institutions are going to hold back on the next tranche that is going to be due to them, and are going to hold this as a kind of a leverage over the Pakistanis to back off, scale down, take the off ramp. There is no indication as yet. If now that happens
No,
in the
but
next day or two,
Sushant, so the next discussion is on the 9th, which is 2 days from now.
Yeah.
If they were to retaliate between today and the 9th, surely that will have ramifications on the next tranche.
but if they were to retaliate and then say that we are not going to do anything more, then will it have an impact on the next tranche or not? So I think we are in that gray zone on this particular issue, unless the Americans or somebody else who holds a kind of a veto in the IMF has already told them that if you were to do anything more than what has already happened over the last maybe 8-9 hours, that is it. If you are going to go up this chain, then there are going to be serious repercussions on you. I don't know whether the Americans have given any such indication, and they are the only ones who can actually hold back the money and veto what is likely to happen.
That's
I don't think
I was
anybody
also
else has
quoting
that
to
power.
a
Right.
particular
The second
American
thing is
analyst
that the
sometime back.
Pakistanis can also come to the conclusion that maybe they can play with this escalation ladder a couple of rungs, simply because the Chinese will supply them, the Turks will supply them, etc., and maybe they can, go up a couple of rungs up the ladder. But I don't think they are also really interested in going in for an all-out conflict. I think what their job or their desire right now would be to make sure that they have shown India that they can hit back. Are they willing to go further up the escalation ladder? Maybe they are. I don't know. I don't entirely rule it out.
See,
But
if they hit back, if they hit,
comes in of empty coffers.
no, but
are you going to
if they
fight
hit back, then that gives us
And even if you fight with empty
sizable
coffers, what do
ground
you
to
do after this fight?
claim acreage, Air Marshal. That means if they hit back at a military installation, it's the Pakistanis who are escalating it. They are responding to a war on terror with a military strike. That gives us more handle to push for acreage and up the intensity, which Pakistan cannot afford right now. Ji.
See, if you see how Israel handled Hamas, if you see how we have handled Pakistan today, this is a sign of a matured nation wherein we do not want any civilian casualties, where we do not want to escalate, and we begin with striking the key people who perpetrated that attack. So we have shown to the world, in my appreciation, today's attack. And one thing is very clear, that 4 cities in Pakistani Punjab have been hit today, which has never been the case earlier. So the 5 cities, 5 targets have been in Pak-occupied Kashmir, but 4 have been in Pakistani Punjab. So this is where the heart of the Pakistan lies. And when their heart has been attacked, obviously this is going to churn up emotions. It will churn up a lot of thoughts in their CCS meet, which they're going to have in a few hours from now.
Right.
The public will try and come on the roads to put pressure on the administration and the army to take retaliatory action.
Zaka, sorry, sir. UAE has responded. UAE has said on India-Pakistan tensions, exercise restraint, de-escalate tensions, and avoid further escalation. That is what the UAE has said. And even as you weigh in on it and we take this forward, Pallavi Ghosh is saying that the Army and the Indian Air Force will be present at the briefing at 10 a.m. and it's going to be a statement. Questions are not going to be entertained.
Yeah, which is how it was after Balakot, which was how it was after Uri as well. So this statement that's been put out by the UAE Deputy Prime Minister, Sheikh Abdul bin Zayed Al Nahyan, he has called for both India and Pakistan to exercise restraint, de-escalate tensions, and avoid further escalation. I think it's important in the context that UAE is one of the few countries, I think about 5 or 6 countries that was spoken to in the immediate aftermath of Operation Sindoor. UAE happens to be one of them, along with Saudi Arabia. So I think it's important to underline these are countries that have a tremendous amount of influence on Pakistan. They are key members of the Gulf Cooperation Council. They are loaded. They have petrodollars. They often lend money to Pakistan and have, like I said, leverage on the Pakistani establishment and also on the Pakistani army. So I think the fact that the UAE has also now come out and publicly put out this statement will again add further pressure to the Pakistani military. Pallavi Ghosh is joining us with more details on this. So Pallavi, the NMC briefing at 10 a.m., much like what we saw in Balakot, much like what we saw in the aftermath of Uri, there will be representatives from the defense forces, in this case, I believe from the Army and the Air Force, and there will also be a representative from the Ministry of External Affairs.
Hello. Hello. Okay.
Pallavi, can you hear me?
But in the meantime, the foreign
Pallavi
minister
seems
of
to be
Turkey,
inside the National
I
Media
don't know if
Center
we'll
right now.
flag
We'll try and go
this,
across to her.
Anand.
Can you hear us, Pallavi? Just quickly just checking.
The foreign
and then-
minister
yeah.
of Turkey has come out,
Yeah.
Hakan Fidan, and he has said that we express solidarity with Pakistan against India's unprovoked aggression, violating Pakistan's sovereignty and killing innocent civilians. Pakistani travel guides, according to them, Ministry of Foreign Affairs statement that Turkey's FM expressed concern over deteriorating regional security situation. However, both the leaders agreed to remain in close coordination on the evolving situation. So Turkey has certainly picked a side here.
Turkey has not only picked a side, they've also sent a plane. I think that's
Yeah.
also...
Well, that was something that was reported
calibrated.
on
Interesting
flight
that after
24
the
radar.
strike, they're the only flight over the Pakistani airspace was a plane from Istanbul to Karachi. Yes, Pallavi. So no questions will be taken. Will the MEA also be present along with the Army and the Air Force spokespersons? Yeah.
So as of now, the details which have been put out by the PIB is, and you can see those preparations right behind me, all the mic testing and all the chairs and all of that have been put here, that representatives from the armed forces and the Air Force are going to be addressing this. It's not going to be an interactive press conference as of now. That has not been planned. It's just going to be a suo motu statement, which is going to give out details of the operations, the security details, but of course not being compromised. But at the same time, the detail is going to reflect on the fact that there's a lot of fake news which is being peddled by Pakistan with something which has to be outrightly rejected and not reflected at all. Ever since this operation took place, Operation Sindoor, they have been the PIB fact check unit which has been working round the clock, and they have been putting out fact check points. And this is an appeal that they are making consistently to all the channels, that please don't fall and don't reflect that fake news. We understand that Pakistan is frustrated at this point of time, so they are going to be putting out these kind of news. They are not to be reflected or believed at all. So in that press conference, if you want to call it one, at 10 a.m., there are going to be representatives of the Army and the Air Force. We haven't been given further details on who else will be sitting there, but they are certainly going to give us all the minute details which the security concerns permit of Operation Sindoor, so as to put it on record how it was conducted, how there was no violations taking place, and how it was done in a very coordinated civil manner.
Sushant Sareen and Air Marshal Kapoor with us. So Air Marshal Kapoor, the other question is, which I was asking General Dua is not there. Zaka had mentioned that Operation Sindoor changes the perception, global perception of Bharat's military posture. Agree, disagree? Pre and post Operation Sindoor, will there be two different dynamics here? Because it's the first time we have done what we have done at such a scale.
Yes, after 1971, the next strike, the aerial strike which we took, which was at Balakot. Now, that was just a singular target, which the next morning they took the media people and showed some shrubs, bushes have been damaged and some craters have been created, nothing much. I've been telling this in all the forums, is that they have an exceptional quality of weaving a story to their own masses and to their own public. And they are master in that. So even after Op Sindoor, the people there will fabricate some sort of a story as to nothing much has happened. There were actually not 9 targets. There were only 2-3 targets. We have put down so many things. And look at the ground. This fire which they are showing is not actual. Only this damage has happened. This, and the gullible public will buy that. So that's my take.
Actually, the problem there with the Pakistani state is being centrally controlled.
Yes,
it's not really
the
a
ISPR
democracy.
decides what has to
The
be,
people,
what narrative.
people will only get what
Yes.
the official version is.
Yes,
Sushant Singh, yes, you were raising your hand.
Yeah, not that anybody listens to me, but my own advice to people in the government would be that if you're holding a briefing right now, say at 10 o'clock, maybe you should hold 2 briefings in a day while things are very hot. And please go beyond the normal anodyne kind of briefings that people generally give in government. Give a little more details. Don't try and hide many things. If there are some losses that we have incurred, fine. Frankly speaking, I don't give a damn if we have incurred any losses, because the losses are always part of this game. There is no loss-free or risk-free options, as I've often repeated.
Yeah.
So please don't be shary of that. Please be very transparent and give whatever information you can share, rather than just giving a very trite kind of information which really does not help much.
And
So
prompts
if
more
you
questions.
you can do it through these briefings, but please make them a little more detailed, and please at this point in time at least have them twice a day.
But Sushant, if I can, you've been tracking and following Pakistan for a very, very long time. This is the first time outside of a war situation where Punjab has been hit. And Punjab is like the heartbeat, the very nerve center of not just the Pakistani establishment, but specifically the Pakistani military establishment. If you were to go inside and gaze inside Asim Munir's thinking process right now after Punjab, multiple locations in Punjab have been hit. What is he thinking in terms of how to respond to this?
Look, I think from the Pakistani perspective, the fact that Punjab has been hit is something quite significant. Even actually come to think of it, Balakot being hit, which is part of Pakistan proper, not part of Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, was a significant message. But look, it's not just Bahawalpur which has been hit. You hit Muridke, which is like on the outskirts of Lahore, right?
Yep.
So the messaging is very strong. But the point is, the Pakistanis have already said that we are going to come back very strong. And I think we should take them at their word. Now, like I said earlier, they can say that, okay, fine, you came, we scrambled our guys, and we launched certain counterattacks. And yes, that's our off-ramp. Will they take that as the off-ramp? Or will they, and they can, in their own way, they can declare their victory like they always do. And they've always claimed that even 1971 they had won, except for the cunning Hindu who, made them lose, etc., etc. So they can claim victory and say that we've shown the Indians, and fine. I think we've made our point. They think they have made their point, and this can be an off-ramp. Or he could scale up, thinking that maybe he can, do something much more to go down in history as somebody who's achieved something against India. But then, I think the serious question will be for the Indian defense planners, and I would imagine that they have gamed it, that they will then need to go up the escalation ladder and use certain other stuff which they haven't as yet used.
General Harimon Iyer is with us. Sushant Sareen, even as we speak, we're going to check with our team to confirm this. The army is saying that some of the shelling that's coming along the LOC and in Punch, some artillery has landed right outside the doorstep of the UN field station there. So they are not even sparing the UN field offices there. That's also coming under Pakistan artillery shelling. The other thing is that the Pak military commanders, local operational commanders, have visited the hospital in Bahawalpur. What's interesting is what's being spoken in the ambient noise. We'll try and play that up in a bit, where they are saying something about India, but behind that they are saying Jaish Ayo, Jaish Ai. So this whole thing on confirmation of Jaish headquarters being really targeted and Jaish-e-Mohammed being hit is something that is being confirmed in the ambient sound in that video. Now, this is again army sources which are claiming this, so we'll try and confirm that and then put it out accordingly. But General Harimon Iyer, the escalation ramp, Pakistanis, will they strike? What are they expected to do? Because somewhere one gets the feeling that they may come back and do something drastic or attempt something drastic on Indian soil.
The first thing is we must understand that escalation will happen, because he has to sound his masses that he has also done something. But the larger question is, what is he going to escalate against? There are no terrorist camps for him to target. If he targets the military sites once again, he is going to escalate the entire thing a little further. The very fact that we have given out a very clear statement that this was in response of terror architecture inside Pakistan, and we do not want to escalate any further. This is a clear sign for him to say, don't try and escalate, and don't try and hit our military targets. Because the moment he starts engaging anything which is of value to India, the escalatory ladder is only going to go up. And he's going to get a second or third round of a larger dose, something which is way beyond what he got yesterday. So the next few days are going to be very interesting, because he has a masses to look at. And like Sushant keeps saying, these people are incorrigible, lot of people. They don't tell the masses the right thing, what is happening on ground. They have to continue showing that they are a superior race, that the Fauj in Pakistan is absolutely the most professional Fauj in the world. And they'll try and play up some story saying that they have downed a couple of our aircrafts. They have hit some. I have already seen some kind of Pakistani noise coming out that they have destroyed a brigade headquarters and so on. It is not so easy to destroy an
That's a fake
brigade.
news.
Yeah.
That's a fake news. That's why I'm trying to say they are trying to sound to their own masses that the army is, giving it back.
Right.
General, I'll just come back to you in 1 second. We have some exclusive information by way of our investigations editor, Manoj Gupta. We're flashing that on our screens. The details of Operation Sindoor, the approximate distances from India, the considerations for the potential responses have all been accessed. The Jaish headquarters, of course, was struck, which is the seminary that they have.
Markaz Subhanallah.
Yeah,
Markaz Subhanallah in Bahawalpur. Approximate distance from the borders is about 90 kilometers, with nearest border in Punjab and Rajasthan with Bharat. Is the global headquarters of Jaish-e-Mohammed. Bahawalpur is in southern Punjab. Pakistan needs medium-range missiles. Markaz Taiba, Murid ke Lashkar, that is 25 to 30 kilometers from the Atari border, and is the headquarters of the Lashkar. Close proximity allows for artillery or short-range missiles. Sarjal, Tehra Kalan is 20 kilometers from Pak Punjab and training hub for Jaish. Akash joining us with more details. So that requires precision strikes via drones or missiles. So clearly, how these targets have been attacked or these targets have been neutralized, that is something which is now perhaps we have some details. What kind of weapon systems would have been used? Yes, Akash.
Anand, last time when Balakot happened, I remember that how, the jets of Indian Air Force went inside the Pakistani territory and dropped those bombs, inside for up to 100 kilometers, in fact. This time around, while it is about the targets, yes, Manoj Gupta is reporting that how, there were targets that are 90 kilometer, away from the LC. And this is the time when, there comes the role of the loiter munitions. Right. I have been, talking about Nagastra and all other weapons, and in fact the, indigenous weapons that we have, the loiter munitions we have. Now, which one was used, is something that we may get, in the press conference that is being addressed by Indian Army and Indian Air Force.
The
but
90
at this point in time, Anand, I'll also try to.
Yeah, the 90-kilometer distance is actually from
Anand,
the international
I'll
border,
try to show you the
Bahawalpur to Rajasthan, Punjab. Yeah, go ahead, please. Yes.
Yeah, there I am showing you the visuals. This is Srinagar Airport. Initially the claim was that, they have attacked the Indian Air Force base here in Srinagar. And, we have in fact been informed that all the schools in this vicinity have been closed because of security reasons. And I'm showing you the visuals that in fact the airport has been closed. All flights, that were earlier scheduled from this particular airport have been cancelled. And in fact, there I'm showing you the visuals. No one is allowed. This particular passage is not for common people. And in fact, I have been told that Indian Air Force is somewhere taking the charge here at this particular airport. This is, of course, because of security scenario and for the safety of the citizens here.
Right.
But then we have several sort of schools in this vicinity. Anand, this is the Kashmir Valley School, which has been, in fact, closed, and it will remain shut throughout the day. And in fact, all these schools in the nearby vicinity have been, asked to remain shut.
Exams
and,
have also been
at this point in time, everyone is waiting for. everyone is waiting for that press conference that Indian Army and Air Force, are going to address, because in that press conference we'll get to know some sort of details of the sort of attack that was carried out. And I'm not sure whether or not it will be, informed that which weapon was used, but definitely this press conference is going to be very, very important.
Right. Just to get some perspective, that Bahawalpur that has been targeted is about 90 kilometers from southern Punjab of Pakistan. It's located in southern Punjab in Pakistan, but about 90 kilometers from Rajasthan-Punjab borders. Now, what kind of munitions would come in place? Short-range missiles will come in. There will be the use of loitering munitions here. Markaz Ahle Hadith, Bimbar and Lashkar, that's the Lashkar head terror camp. This is in POK. There is Markaz Abbas, that is in Kotli, that's about 10 to 15 kilometers from the LOC. Markaz Rahil Shahid is again about 10 to 15 kilometers from the LOC. The Shawai Nala camp in Muzaffarabad is 40 to 50 kilometers from the LOC. And Sayyidna Bilal camp is about 40 to 50 kilometers from the LOC. So we have the weapon systems, the arsenal to target all these locations deep inside Pakistan or in Pakistan occupied territory very easily, about 50 to 100 kilometers from the border also, without crossing the borders. General Harimon Iyer, perhaps that is critical. Even as we're waiting for that briefing that is scheduled at around 10 a.m., this is the critical aspect. We have not crossed the border this time around. We have not had to get into enemy airspace at all.
Yeah, that is the advantage of having a weapon system like the Rafale. We can have long range standoff attacks. Not that we don't have the other systems like the BrahMos and other long range vectors, but when you use those kind of long range vectors, the escalatory ladder goes up very fast. So it's very possible that there has been a mix of a large number of weapon systems that have been used. It is not necessary that only one weapon system is used on a particular target. It depends on the size, shape, and the kind of target that is being put up. If it is going to be a large structure like the Murid headquarters or the Bahawalpur headquarters, I'm sure a much larger sized missile would have been used, along with possibly even a loiter ammunition, which cannot be ruled out. Because the aim is to carry out as much damage as you can in a structure which is of that kind of a nature. As far as those camps which are across the line of control, they are possibly more semi-permanent kind of camps, where the structures are not so strong. So possibly more loiters and other kind of vectors could have been used. So it is something must have been planned based on the target shape, size, and posture.
Well, before I bring in Air Marshal, we also have a response coming in from Pahalgam victim Bharat Bhushan's father, Chinna Veerappa and Preetam Bharat, who are Bhushan's brother. Both have hailed Operation Sindoor.
People along the border, and they are controlling all the terrorists, and they fight the hideouts of the terrorists, and really they are bringing peace to people in India.
Sir, do you think this is some form of revenge for the unfortunate death of your son? Of course, no one can replace him, but do you feel there is some form of retribution, some form of revenge, some form of justice for your son's unfortunate demise?
Definitely a lot of justice is there, because the army people and air force people, they have done a lot of work, and they have attacked the 9 terrorist hideouts, and they killed them. That's a good news for all the people of India, because hereafter there may not be any terrorists attacking Indian people.
So, Mr. Preetam, you also saw, unfortunately, you are the ones who also went to Kashmir, ensured that your family came back as safely as possible, and you saw the tragedy that took place there and the pain of many. Do you feel this is revenge for your brother's unfortunate tragedy, sir?
See, he's not going to come back. We have lost him. He's not there. I don't know. I don't want to call it revenge. I don't want to call it anything else. I think looking from a perspective saying, how do we stop this from happening? I think there is a need for us to give an answer to a certain terror outfits in a certain way. Probably that's exactly what the government is trying to do, because some of these terror outfits only learn from such kind of retaliation. There are some people who are peace lovers. They have been advised peace. That kind of an approach has been taken. some people where we need to change the mindset of people as well. I think that kind of approach has been taken. So I think it's different solutions for different category of people, which is exactly what government is adopting to. Hopefully, this will bring peace to the nation as well as for the neighboring nations as well. I wouldn't get into the word of using the word revenge. Is that giving us peace? I don't think so. Let's see now how it goes. I'm worried that now that we have made an attack, I don't know how they will retaliate. I don't know how that will further get escalated. The last thing anybody from any house would want to see is civilians being attacked or army personnel being attacked and people getting killed. We don't want to see those visuals, and we don't want to experience that at all, especially after losing our brother.
Nobody wants to experience this again, but is this a deterrent enough, or does more need to be done? Even as we understand the role that has been played by our forces, targeted and perhaps never before in a long, long time. Sushant, Sareen, should we brace for impact, or should we, or are we already at the ready? The civilian commercial flights from Jodhpur upwards, all the way up to Jammu and Leh, have been temporarily halted. There is, as a precautionary measure, at least till afternoon, if not more, till further notice is what we're given to understand in Jammu, Kashmir, Leh, Ladakh, and further down towards Chandigarh. But what next? That's a question. And how much are we ready to escalate this matter? Or this time, do you feel the intent is that if they up the ante, we will go up further? It's okay if it is a little long drawn.
I don't know what the government's calculations is. Like I said, they neither listen to me nor am I privy to what their confabulations are. But the fact of the matter is that I think we'll wait and see. In the next maybe couple of days, it'll become very clear whether the Pakistanis are going to actually, escalate. Then we go up the escalation ladder and target, because Pakistan is a very target-rich country in terms of targets. So we can always go up the escalation ladder on that count. And in case they are going to be attacking our defense forces establishments, then there are even more targets available to us. So we'll wait and see how that works out and how that turns out. And then, of course, we don't know whether after we do something like that, there are a couple of rounds of exchanges, things calm down, or they further escalate into a full-fledged conflagration. I would imagine that neither India nor Pakistan would really want to go down that road. But then wars very often happen out of miscalculation and also by accident.
But there are many who believe.
One interesting thing is when Abhinandan happened, I think Abhinandan became, that whole episode became the off-ramp, right? Right now, I don't know what the off-ramp is. Two, the players at that time and the players currently are very, very different by nature, by their politics. For example, for whatever it was worth, in early 2019, Imran Khan, at the height of his popularity, had just sort of come to power, was seen as a politician who had some kind of heft. Certainly, Shahbaz Sharif, no one in Pakistan right now considers him as a politician who has any kind of heft. So he had some degree of heft in 2019, in February of 2019. Also, the army chief at that time was General Bajwa. He was a very different, person compared to the current army chief, which is Asim Munir. They're cut of two different cloths altogether.
Asim Munir is more referred to
the
as
nature
Mullah
of the
Munir
response from all of these factors, I wish we can get General Iyer and Sushant also to weigh in on this. One, what's the off-ramp here for Pakistan? Two, the characters involved right now compared to the characters involved in 2019. The nature of response will be different because of the characters who are involved.
See, we are talking about an off-ramp for Pakistan. There is another way to look at it, is that there are many here who believe that we don't give, when I say we, India as a government and the Indian armed forces don't give the messaging strong enough to make it a deterrent for the Pakistanis to turn back and come back. So the messaging is, unless there is acreage that shaved off the Pakistanis, there is something hard which hits them, which they lose. They are not going to learn. This will be nothing but a pinch or a kick on the backside, and then they'll come back and do the same thing again via proxy. General Saab, your thoughts?
Yeah. We should also look at the political structure which is there in Pakistan today. Like Rahul brought out, 4 years back or 5 years back.
Zaka was it? Yeah.
There was Zaka. The political structure was totally different. You had a elected government in place. You had the army chief who was on an extension, and possibly a little more reasonable person than the one which is here today. Today, as you know, people put it. In fact, I was hearing somewhere in the American news setup that they are looking at him as a dictator controlling entire Pakistan. The political structure is just a front face, and everybody knows who's calling the shots in Pakistan. So we are dealing with two different level of things as to what happened in 2019 and what is going to happen this time. The other issue is if they don't respond and if they don't go down quietly down this lane, the whole whole issue of the Fauj being the savior of Pakistan gets a beating.
Yeah.
So that is something we need to factor in, and I believe that they will possibly go down the suicide lane a little bit, assuming that there could be, their benefactors who are around the world who will come and save them and try and extricate
But if
them.
they do that, then is Bharat willing to go and then exact acreage from the Pakistanis to further defang the army, because there are many within Pakistan who want their army and their military establishment defanged?
Personally, if you ask me, if the situation escalates to a level that we have a capability to finish this operation completely, I am sure the current government has the resolve to take it the full distance and ensure that the complete Pak army gets discredited. And this is something which I've been, speaking right across the time when this crisis has started. By and large, the Pakistani army needs to be, brought to books, and it has to be a system that has to be changed in Pakistan. Otherwise, small little doses like this, they will come back again after 5 years.
And if there is escalation, does Pakistan face multiple fronts? Is there more that will happen with the Baloch? Is there more that could happen with the Taliban on the other side? Could there more that could happen with the Pashtuns?
Yes. Now, the Pakistan Armed Forces, army especially, which has been deployed for internal security, large number of them have already been pulled out and brought to their eastern borders. But now with this strike, the remaining also would be asked to augment. So this will probably give an opening to the locals there to venture out. And that must be in the mind of their leadership, how much to leave behind and how much to pull. Second is that the international pressure would now start to mount on the establishments, both the establishments, ours and theirs, to contain it to the level which it has gone. Now, this would have been factored into the initial planning. If we want to go up the escalation ladder, the options for us is to strike at the places and open those fronts where they're weak.
Right.
What Pakistanis have basically done is each and every inch of their Punjab is with canals, which they call ditch cum ban, so that these are natural irrigation canals which act as a barrier for our movement of armor, tanks, and BMPs. Also, they have heavily fortified by air defense all the targets in this area. But whereas it is quite thin when you go from Rajasthan downwards into the Sindh area, and hardly anything towards Balochistan. So what happens is India has avenues to explore different in case the escalation.
नहीं अभी तो पानी भी बंद कर दिया, तो what are those bunds or those canals going to do? So that is also the yes. IWT maneuver is also a significant one. But we've got more news before we come back to this conversation. The Congress has struck a discordant note after Bharat strike against Pakistan. While Mallikarjun Kharge, Rahul Gandhi have all hailed the forces, Congress's Jignesh Mewani's post has stirred controversy. In his post, he has said, "Fight warmongers, religious hatred and fake nationalism. Terror will die of starvation." Pallavi Ghosh with us. Yes.
Well, we were just talking a little while back, around an hour or so back, about how political ideologies, differences being there. But today, every political voice seems to be speaking in the right noise, and also standing united behind the campaign. I think we all spoke a little bit too soon. So there you have the Congress at it. The Congress MLA from Vadgaon in Gujarat, Jignesh Mewani, strikes that discordant note. He talks about, as you just pointed out, and this raises a question about is that why is it that many Congress leaders get their timing wrong? At this point of time, even as we speak shortly, the Congress is going to come out with its first official response in terms of a soundbite from Pawan Khera, Mr. Kharge, Rahul Gandhi, just about every top leader of the Congress party have been, kind of lauding the Operation Sindoor and also standing by the government. And they've come out with a detailed statement. Mr. Kharge's detailed statement talks about the fact that ever since the Pahalgam terror attack, we have firmly backed the government. But when voices like Ajay Rai, when voices of Jignesh Mevani, which are just a couple of hours after Operation Sindoor, it certainly does bring out this picture of the Congress party of never being on the right page at the right time. This is a time when we need to show to the world that we are all together, that we all are backing our armed forces. And at that press conference which is going to take place, and in fact it's not even a press conference, it's a statement which is going to come at 10 a.m. This is exactly what they are going to be looking for, a complete unequivocal support, cutting across party lines, every kind of an ideology. But Jignesh Mevani's discordant notes raises this whole horrible question that how can politics be far behind?
Right. We go across to Pile in just a bit. Now we've just accessed this. This is what is going to be officially be shown. We are expecting. This is the detail of the 9 terror hideouts. So the 9 terror hideouts have now been highlighted here. So there is Markaz Subhanallah, Bahawalpur, JEM, that's named number 1 and starred. So these are the stars. So this is Markaz Subhanallah. There is Markaz-e-Taiba, that is in Muridke. That's the next one. And there is Sarjal, that is Tehra Kala, that is a Jaish. So these are all the ones that are now being highlighted. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So downward from Bahawalpur, upward towards Muzaffarabad. So number 4 is Mehmoona Joya in Sialkot. That's the that's the Hizbul Mujahideen. So confirmation of what we were reporting earlier. That's now come through. There is Masjid Ahle Hadith, that is Barnala, that is again Lashkar, that is the number 5, target number 5 here, that's come through. There is Masjid Abbas, Kotli, that is Jaish-e-Mohammed, this is number 6 here in Kotli. There is also Markaz-e-Rahil Shahid, Kotli, that's Hizbul Mujahideen Center. So two places of the Hizbul Mujahideen have been struck. Shawai Nala camp, Muzaffarabad, Lashkar, number 8, and number 9 is the Sayyidina Bilal camp, Muzaffarabad, Jaish-e-Mohammed. So Jaish, Lashkar, and Hizbul, these are the ones that have been targeted here, even as news is coming in thick and fast. Coming back to the politics, Payal Mehta with us. So we now have the details and confirmation of what CNN News 18 has been putting out. These are the 9 targets and the reason why. So 3 terror hubs and their centers, their markazes have been targeted. Jaish-e-Mohammed, Lashkar-e-Taiba, and the Hizbul Mujahideen. From Bahawalpur all the way up to Muzaffarabad. Yes, Payal.
Of course, at a time when the entire nation is rejoicing, because Anand, it must have been like the hell of a period for those families who've actually lost their loved ones, or to go through these 14 days and to actually really wait by the hour to see when the revenge would be taken. But at a time, when the entire nation is celebrating, probably Congress party has decided to play the spoiled sport. Even yesterday, you saw Mallikarjun Kharge also making some comments, essentially saying that, why did the Prime Minister cancel his previous visits to Jammu and Kashmir? Was he aware of any intel inputs? Was he trying to save himself? All of this is not going to make them any stronger in this nation as well. The nation has understood that, who these leaders are and what their politics revolves around as well. So, multiple diktats have been given by the Congress party, which have been broken by our colleagues, but they've come of no avail. So whether it's the ex-chief minister of a border state like Punjab, Charanjit Singh Channi, Ajay Rai, or now, Jignesh Mevani from Gujarat, it's very difficult for the Congress party to really justify what answers these questions as well. And of course, with the Congress party's handle in Karnataka coming up and saying peace is the only way out, go try telling this to the families who've actually lost their loved ones. Their answer you will see. The response is what the government has really done today, is what people of the country really want. They've been waiting, saying that Modi struck them in Uri, Modi struck them in Balakot. So when will the revenge be taken as far as Pahalgam is concerned? So very, very unfortunate, because even the most sternest of voices, which have been diabolically opposite to what the BJP's ideology have been,
right.
Asaduddin Owaisi has also been making a very, very mature statement all through. So obviously the Congress party will have a lot to answer, not just to Prime Minister Narendra Modi or the BJP,
right.
but to the people of the country.
Right. Thanks, Payal. Zaka, more news coming through.
Yeah, top defense sources telling CNN News 18, Zaka Sharma, that the Indian Army played a stellar role, a major role in what happened in Operation Sindoor. It engaged most of the targets. both the forces, that's the Army and the Air Force, coordinated based on the distance and the vicinity of the target. Some of these targets were almost 90 kilometers inside the line of control on the Pakistani side. The weapons and the weapon systems were also decided based on the input of how far these targets were, these terror targets were from either the international boundary or from the line of control. Akash has more details on this. Akash, so 3-4 things which are important, which are getting underlined is A, none of these flights crossed the line of control or the international border. The weapon systems that were used and which were engaged were purely based on how far these targets were from Indian territory, and basis that these targets were decided and the weapon systems to be used to hit those targets were also decided.
Exactly, Zaka. It was made very clear that none of our jets, crossed the LAC. In fact, and now it is coming to fore that it was a coordinated effort, of course. But then the targets and in fact, the engagement was decided on the basis of the distance, and we have been told that distance targets were basically engaged by Indian Air Force. We have been told that at least two distinct targets were engaged by Indian Air Force and rest were engaged by Indian Army. And this is the reason why we are talking about loiter munitions, because as far as Indian Army's role is concerned, so of course we know that Indian Army, doesn't operate the fighter jets, and that's the reason why they were using these precise, in fact, precision, weapons, which in fact we will get to know as to which weapon, was used. But yet, Indian Army played a major role with, engaging 70% of the targets. Among these 9 targets, we have been told at least 6 to 7 were engaged by Indian Army in this case.
Let's just credit the armed forces for what they have done. Who played a major role, who played a lesser role is immaterial. The fact is that these targets have been neutralized. Going back to our guest, thanks Akash. Interestingly, there is a reaction of Harshal Lele, son of Sanjay Lele, who was killed in Pahalgam. Sushant Salim and...
All right. So clearly, I mean, what we're awaiting in the next hour at 10 o'clock at the National Media Center, we will have the joint briefing by officials from the Defense Forces and also from the Ministry of External Affairs. Clearly, India is calibrating this response. The first was to put out there the 9 locations that have been hit, 3 of which happen to be the headquarters of the Jaish, the headquarters of the Lashkar, and the headquarters of the Hizbul Mujahideen. Also, the very first statement that the Indian Army PR put out said India does not wish to escalate. It is the terror targets that are being hit. No military installations have been targeted. I want to go back to Sushant Sareen and try and get his perspective. What are you hoping to hear from that press conference, Sushant? Because the Indian armed forces, the Indian government seem to be taking a very measured, very calibrated sort of response, saying that what we are seeing today in Operation Sindoor is simply to avenge or to respond to what we saw in Pahalgam 2 weeks ago.
Zaka, before I answer your question, I just want to weigh in on a couple of things that were being said earlier. I think Mr. Jignesh Mevani, I don't know how much he knows about what happened in this country earlier, but there was a lot of love and a lot of milk of human kindness was flowing between 2004 and 2014. And it wasn't as though terrorism had died a death at that point of time. In fact, we had a lot of terrorism at that point of time. So I really wish politicians would behave much more responsibly rather than, taking digs and making silly comments at this point in time. Secondly, you were talking about the character of the army chief in 2019 and the Pakistan army chief now. While I might agree to some extent that Bajwa and Asim Munir are 2 separate people, clearly they are. But look, I might want to do whatever I might want to do with the Pakistanis. But at the end of the day, I also have to see what my capabilities are. My intentions could be anything. But what is my capability? Do I have that capacity to carry out a conflict with India for very long? Can I sustain that conflict? Maybe yes, a short, sharp kind of a thing, yes. Maybe 2-3 days, a couple of rungs up the ladder. But beyond that, do I have that wherewithal to do it? Can I really depend upon countries like Turkey and other countries to come? And this is not 2 small countries fighting. So I think that calculation will have to be made. So that let's not lose sight of it. And finally, I think it is important to understand that the Israelis, for example, have been beating up, and retaliating against terror attacks but the terror attacks haven't stopped. So we have to start internalizing it, that
Right.
we'll have to keep at it, you know. And
Well-
finally, on your main question, after this long detour, what do I expect from the press conference? I would imagine that a certain amount of information will be shared, much more than what is coming unofficially or what has already been released. Something more, not just virtue signaling that we didn't want to do this, we don't want an escalation. Don't
Right.
keep mentioning we don't want an escalation. You've already mentioned it.
Right.
The-
Right.
very
Harsh
much.
Shingla ji is with
Yeah.
us. Harsh Shingla ji is with us, but we also have Mr. Rajesh Narwal joining
Okay.
us at this point. Mr. Narwal, namaste.
Namaskar.
Sir, your reaction based on Operation Sindoor.
Yes.
क्या कहेंगे आप?
इसके बारे में मैं स्पष्ट रूप से एक बात कहना चाहता हूं कि जिस दिन 22 अप्रैल की वो दुर्घटना हुई, मेरे जहन से एक बात आ रही थी कि ये कभी भी बख्शे नहीं जाएंगे, कभी नहीं बख्शे जाएंगे, क्योंकि हमारी सरकार बहुत ही सेंसिटिव है इन मामलों में, और वो अपना काम, मैं कई बार मुझसे पूछा भी गया कि सरकार से क्या चाहते हो, क्या चाहते हो। मैंने यही कहा कि हमारी सरकार अच्छे से वो काम कर रही है और मुझे पूरी तरह से इस सरकार पर भरोसा है, अपने लोगों पर, कि वो ऐसा होगा कि कभी इस चीज की पुनरावृत्ति करने की भी कोई सोचेगा नहीं
जी।
और वो हमारी सेना ने, हमारे जवानों ने, मेरी सरकार ने, मोदी सरकार ने वो करके दिखाया, और मुझे ये पूर्णतः भरोसा था इस बात का, मुझे विश्वास था मुझे।
जी राजेश जी, हर्षल हैं एक और जिन संजय लेले के पुत्र हैं, सुपुत्र, उन्होंने एक बात कही है, मैं आपसे आपके विचार जानना चाहूंगा। उनका कहना है कि अगर हमें ये सब पूरी तरह खत्म करना है तो ऐसे सर्जिकल स्ट्राइक कंटिन्यू होने चाहिए। पहले भी हमने स्ट्राइक किया है पर वो सुधरे नहीं है, ये पाकिस्तानी सुधरने वाले नहीं है, ये इनका कहना है। आप क्या कहते हैं, इतना करके हमें रुक जाना चाहिए?
मैं कहना चाहता हूँ, देखो हमारी जो सरकार है और हमारी सेनाएं हैं और उसके जो विंग्स हैं, जो इसके एजेंसीज हैं, वो इन पे हमेशा नजर रखती हैं, और कभी ऐसा जरूरत पड़ती है तो उन्होंने किया भी है और भविष्य में भी वो इसको करेंगे। करते रहने का मकसद तो कुछ और हो जाता है फिर, ठीक है। हाँ, इससे उनकी ये जब तक आतंकवाद खत्म ना हो, इस तरह की घटनाएं खत्म ना हो, तब तक मात्र मैं नहीं कहूंगा कि भाई भारत सरकार पूरे वर्ल्ड को ही इसके अगेंस्ट खड़ा होकर के और इनको नेस्ता नाबूद कर देना चाहिए। आतंकवाद की समस्या को समूल नष्ट करना चाहिए, जड़ से पेड़ को ही उखाड़ दो। आतंकवाद नाम का जो पेड़ है, जब उसको उखाड़ देना चाहिए। और बिल्कुल सही प्रिसाइज से एक स्ट्राइक किया है कि टारगेटेड मतलब टारगेटेड सर्जिकल स्ट्राइक किया है। यस, वो कहते हैं चोर को मत मारो, चोर की माँ को मारो। बेसिकली हमें वो स्कूल, वो इंस्टीट्यूट जहां पर ये तैयार होती है आइडियोलॉजी, और इस तरह से ब्रेन वॉश किया जाता है, इस तरह की बीज बोए जाते हैं, हमें उसको ही समूल नष्ट करना चाहिए। हमें मीन्स पूरे वर्ल्ड को चाहिए,
विनय
हम
तो
शांति से रह सकते हैं।
विनय तो वापस नहीं आएंगे,
देते रहेंगे।
विनय तो वापस नहीं आएंगे, लेकिन ऑपरेशन सिंदूर, इस ऑपरेशन को नाम दिया है, इस पर आपकी प्रतिक्रिया? आपको लगता है ये सही नाम था, सही नाम चुना है? एक
नाम इससे अप्रोप्रिएट नाम नहीं हो सकता, क्योंकि मेरी बहनें, मेरी बेटियां, इस देश की बेटियां, बहनें, माताएं, उनके सामने इतनी निर्ममता से उनके सिंदूर की हत्या की गई, उनके सुहाग की हत्या की गई पूछ करके। इससे घिनौना कृत्य नहीं हो सकता दुनिया में कि निहत्तों पर तुम वार कर रहे हो। उनकी बीवी के सामने, वाइफ के सामने, बच्चे के सामने आप क्या कैसे कर सकते हो? एक आम इंसान नहीं कर सकता, जिसमें जरा सा भी इंसानियत नाम की चीज है, वो कभी नहीं कर सकता ऐसा। तो उन्होंने जो किया है उसका जवाब देना ही बनता है। और जब तक आतंकवाद नामक पेड़ को जड़ से उखाड़ करके उसकी जल समाधि, अग्नि समाधि ना बना दें, तब तक हमें पूरे वर्ल्ड को ही नहीं बैठना चाहिए।
जी नरवाल जी, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद हमारे साथ जुड़ने के लिए। थैंक यू वेरी मच। आई आल्सो वांट टू गो अक्रॉस टू फॉर्मर फॉरेन सेक्रेटरी हर्षप्रीत श्रृंगला, फॉर्मर इंडियन एम्बेसडर टू द यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स। Mr. Shringla, thank you very much for joining us. Your first thoughts in the immediate aftermath of Operation Sindoor, the first set of conversations that have happened between the National Security Advisor and the U.S. Secretary of State and now acting NSA, Mr. Rubio. Mr. Rubio has also tweeted and he said he's spoken to his Pakistani counterpart as well. They want to try and resolve this quickly and peacefully. What are the kind of conversations that are happening right now? We believe that your colleagues in the MEA have spoken already with government representatives from Saudi Arabia, from UAE, US, of course. What are the nature of the conversations you think are likely happening right now, and what is the priority and the focus for everyone?
So first of all, I think congratulations and thanks are due to Prime Minister Modi and the brave members of armed forces who really delivered a response to the Pahalgam attacks with a calibrated and precise sort of strike targeting terrorists and terrorist infrastructure inside Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. At the same time, I think, I was very touched by what Lieutenant Narwal's father just said, that whatever we do, the pain of that, the terrorist attack on 22nd April can never be fully erased. But we have to do what is very, very much in our karma. And I think we have done what is necessary. And yes, we have reached out very quickly and immediately following the strikes to some of our main partners, the United States, UK, Russia, but also Saudi Arabia, UAE, and conversations have been held at different levels. And I think it's important to immediately brief your partners at the global arena about exactly the nature of your strikes, the intentions behind
your
it,
assessment,
and what could be
Mr. Shringla, your assessment of some of the responses that we've been getting from the United States, the UAE, and some of our other partners, Israel. Do you believe that the world is going to lean on Pakistan now to perhaps pull back, restrain itself, and not go down the path that it has? India has only targeted terror infrastructure. So, first of all, the choice of targets diplomatically, what does that convey? And secondly, how the international community has responded to India's outreach?
So I think in the first place, all our interlocutors have appreciated the fact that our, response was very calibrated and very precise, that we focused on non-state actors and terrorist infrastructure. And we did not in any way, want this to be an escalatory sort of situation. And I think our interlocutors do understand that they now need to lean very heavily on Pakistan. I don't think this is what we are saying, but this is coming from their side, that they don't want this to escalate. They don't want this to become another confrontational arena. That what had been necessary in response to terrorist attack has been undertaken, and that Pakistan needs to now get its own house in order rather than to escalate matters that for which we are also fully prepared and would be responsive. So this is something that I think at the global diplomatic level, phone lines will be working overtime. I think there will be a lot of calls being made at very high levels, and then certainly I think Pakistan would feel the pressure of some of its major international.
I also want to ask you, since you said Pakistan will feel the pressure, obviously the Americans have leverage over the Pakistanis, the Saudis do, the UAE, Emiratis do. What about China? Why are we not hearing about conversations with China? Because if there's any country that can bring pressure to bear on Pakistan, it would be China, right? Even in these last 2 weeks, I've not heard of any conversation between foreign minister and his counterpart in China. Why is that?
Well, China has, to some extent, been supportive of Pakistan following the Pahalgam attacks, and we've seen some levels of exchanges, some support in terms of equipment, etc., being supplied. Clearly, China was not willing to leave its so-called all-weather friend, when it comes to an actual confrontation with India. I don't know how much we can rely on them. But I think even China would understand that any escalation of this conflict is not in the best interests of its own best interests and anyone else's interests. So I'm sure quietly they're also doing their bit to ensure that this issue does not get beyond what it has already reached. But I don't think we as a country could count on China to act at our behest, or to act in a manner that would be in the interest of.
Okay. And very quickly, a final word before we thank you. The IMF meeting, the bailout meeting, is happening in 2 days' time from now in Washington. Do you think that will be pressure enough on Pakistan not to climb the escalation ladder, not to retaliate?
That's very important, because I think Pakistan is very heavily relying on the IMF bailout. They've bailed off a very large, 22 or 23 bailouts so far. And I think it's important that they continue getting that IMF support that they're looking for. I think our approach there will be calibrated by their actions, but clearly, I don't think we are in a mood to allow them any more leeway in that area. And our representatives in the IMF, I think, will be acting under very strict instructions when it comes to their
Finally,
responses.
Mr. Shringla, look, the IMF at some level takes its cue also from DC. So is the Indian government, has it been able to impress upon the Trump administration to leverage their muscle, their weight, their influence over the IMF? Because that's an important thing that we're looking at. Also, of course, the FATF grey list.
Yes, so I cannot say with any level of certainty, but I do recall that in similar instances when I was in DC, I had gone across, met the Assistant Treasury Secretary or the Deputy Treasury Secretary, the Minister of State for Finance, if you may call it the equivalent of that, and pressed upon the need for the US to take steps that would be in keeping with responsible actions and our own desires. And the US at that time was very responsive, because they saw Pakistan as a malign terrorist actor and certainly were supportive of our efforts, very supportive. So I have no doubt that they will be supportive even in this instance.
All right.
Harshinglaji, I just have one question, your own personal opinion on this operation being named Operation Sindoor.
No, I think it's very fitting. I mean, nobody better than Lieutenant Nawal's father can tell us, and I think and all of the others who've already responded, that this is a fitting title, considering that it is the women who were spared, but nonetheless who have to now face the agony of living their lives without their husbands and their dear ones and close ones. And I think Operation Sindoor is a very strong symbol of the country's rage and frustration that has led to the action that we saw in POK and Pakistan earlier this morning. So I think this is a very appropriate
Thank you, Harshinglaji, for speaking with us. We got news coming through. The stock markets have started trading. The Sensex is down by 460 points. Nifty is down by 80 points. We try and go across to Sharon joining us with more on this. Yes, Sharon.
Yes, the Indian stock markets have opened, and it's good morning. This is a very sort of par for course kind of move as far as the markets are concerned. Clearly, the markets are not reflecting or indicating any kind of capitulation or panic moves at this point in time. So it is a very measured start as far as our markets are concerned. And I would also imagine that given the fact that there was an anticipation of a response, this had already in some form or fashion been factored in by market participants, and that is what we're seeing on the screens at this point in time. The Nifty now down just about 20 points, and similar story playing out for the Sensex. So it is a measured opening there as far as the markets are concerned. But the markets will track what is going to happen in terms of a response. At the end of the day, as they say, capital is a coward. It moves to where it feels safe. But at this point in time, there are several other factors to contend with as well. In fact, overnight, we had the big India-UK FTA go through. So if you look at the stock markets, a lot of those stocks are reacting positively. The apparel makers and so on and so forth are reacting positively. The defense stocks are, of course, reacting on account of the news of Operation Sindoor as well. A lot of moving parts in terms of sectors that are likely to see an immediate impact. Travel, flight disruptions already a thing that we will need to deal with. So, customers need to reach out to their airlines if they intend to travel. There are airport closures on account of the fact that you are seeing these Air Force exercises underway, as well as the drill preparedness underway across the country. So many airports, in fact, over a dozen or so airports are not open for civilian purposes at this point in time. So that's going to be a separate side of the story to watch out for. Advisories being issued at this point in time, the UK government issuing an advisory. So, you know, we will have to watch and monitor how foreign governments react to this. And of course, the US, you were talking about the IMF, that crucial meeting is on the 9th. Will there be a change as far as the IMF's position on any further loans to Pakistan is concerned? That is going to be the big question. But at this point in time, Secretary Rubio and President Trump both asking for de-escalation. All of that will, of course, play out as far as market sentiment is concerned. And by the way, at this point in time, the Nifty has moved into positive territory. So as I said, it's a very measured reaction by the Indian stock market.
So Shireen, just very quickly, I mean, how much of this is because of the fact that markets had already sort of factored in some kind of kinetic response by India? And also, secondly, you know, the announcement of the free trade agreement yesterday with the UK, I believe there was some announcement of some kind of deal with the US as well that came late night. Again, how do you see that playing out once the immediacy of this operation and possible retaliation by Pakistan, once that cloud passes? Do you think the markets will continue?
They're already in the green now, even as we speak. Yes, Shireen.
Yes, and that's what I was talking about, Zaka, that we've already seen the response from the markets moving into positive territory at this point in time, because, you know, nobody wants an escalation, and certainly the markets would not want an escalation. But was there going to be a response? I think that had already been factored in by the markets, and the hope now is that it will stop here. And you talked about several of the other developments, and I pointed that out as well. The India-UK FTA is a big deal because it does impact you know, a lot of the labor-intensive sectors in India. So you're already seeing, for instance, apparel makers up and running today from a stock market point of view. Those stocks are moving higher. So all of these, of course, will be moving parts. The markets don't like uncertainty, and that is going to be something that we need to watch out for. But so far, as I pointed out, from the way that we've opened for trade today, the response very measured, and there is absolutely no sense of panic on the screens at all when we talk about the markets.
Well, thank you for that, Shireen. We also have Tilak Devasharji joining us. Tilakji, how do you read the situation? Sushant Sareen, General Iyer with us. Thank you for your patience, gents. But this is a long haul, so we all have to dig in our heels and perhaps wait on, because developments are going to happen thick and fast. In about 40 minutes, we should have the press briefing. Tilak Devasharji, Bharat's response, 9 targets on this side. Do we see Pakistan getting stretched if it tries to concentrate too much weight towards its eastern side?
Good morning, Anand, and morning to all the panelists. A lot has already been spoken, and I was certainly very impressed with the name Operation Sindoor. I think it captures, you know, the anguish and the pain and the response of India extremely well. Whoever has thought of this name requires real compliments.
We are given to understand the Prime Minister thought about this. It was suggested by the Prime Minister himself.
Yeah, so you can well imagine, you know, he brings the weight of the civilization. He brings the weight of Bharat and culture into this one operational word, which signifies what India is trying to do. I think this has been a very, very impactful morning, because 9 targets, standoff aircraft not entering Pakistan's airspace, targeting terror camps, including the snake pits of Muridke and Bahawalpur and other associated camps, is a very, very significant strike. And, you know, one thing which I want to mention, the kind of propaganda, and this is going to be a war of narratives also, the kind of narrative being pushed out by Pakistan is, in the list they have given, that only mosques were targeted. So in all places, you know, for example, if I can just mention some, like whether it's Bahawalpur, whether it's Muridke, whether other places, they mentioned that mosques were targeted. Now, this is being done deliberately. But the fact of the matter is that all these training camps have got either medical centers or mosques in front of where the training is taking place.
They are markazes, so like they are hubs or centers like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So you know, there it's very easy to then, for propaganda purposes, and the signal that they give that India is targeting mosques, it is trying to hurt the Muslims' places of religious worship. This is something that we have to guard against, and we have to demolish such a narrative that this is not there, that if you have a training center behind a mosque or inside a mosque, but what do you think is going to happen? India is not going to put garlands. So, this is something which is an important factor.
Tilakji, please hold your thoughts. We've just got updates coming through. Prime Minister Narendra Modi continuously monitoring this operation at 7 Lokalyan Marg. NSA Ajit Doval constantly giving information. There is a picture also of the Prime Minister watching the operations from the war room at that when this was happening. So PM continuously monitoring Operation Sindoor. The press conference or the press briefing has been delayed by half an hour. Perhaps some calibration or to ensure that Bharat is ready for a response reprisal, and all those who are part of the operation are also back in base, safe and sound. The Prime Minister continuously monitoring the operation. That's the update that we have at this point. Going back to our guest, yes, Tilakji, please complete.
Yes. So, now our Pakistan response. You see, Pakistan will respond within 24 to 36 hours. Make no bones about it, because it has to show its people that it has the capability and it has the capacity to respond. Now, this could be sheer bravado also, because they know that they cannot continue with it. But you can expect a reaction. The reaction will probably be like in the case of Balakot. It will be using by air assets. They could also use missiles. But a reaction from Pakistan will come. Then the question will become that what does India do? Does India stop at that level?
Okay.
Or you take it one notch higher? You see, my own sense is that you can stop at this level and that this crisis then draws down.
Blows over, yeah.
But what happens 2 years down the road when Pakistan indulges in terrorism again? The sense that you get from what the Prime Minister had to say in Bihar, what the Home Minister, what the Defence Minister have been saying, that you cannot allow Pakistan to continue with this bleeding India. Every now and then when an army chief feels he needs to burnish his image and to show how much of a macho guy he is, to launch another terrorist attack and innocent Indians get killed. So is it probably better to absorb pain once, now, go up the escalatory ladder, continue to maintain dominance, but make sure that the message that gets to Pakistan is so harsh that it will not dare do something like this again.
All right, Mr. Deveshwar, just give me 1 second. We're getting more breaking news, and I want to go across to Payal, my colleague. So the Prime Minister is getting continuous briefings about what's going on, the aftermath of Operation Sindoor, how long it lasted, the targets, what the operational details are, the damage that's been left behind, and of course, now he has to manage the diplomatic fallout of it as well. Payal, what more details do we have? Who all are there? Who all are briefing the Prime Minister on a minute-to-minute basis of what's going on there? Both during the operation and now, of course, more importantly, the aftermath of the operation.
Dhaka, we aren't really sure if it's a physical briefing that the NSA is holding with the Prime Minister. It's probably communication that he's having with the Prime Minister, briefing him about what really transpired, what is the aftermath, how is the world reacting to it, how is, of course, Pakistan also reacting to it, because Ajit Doval is one person who knows a thing or two about Jammu and Kashmir and knows a lot of things about Pakistan as well. But, you know, this is going to be a very, very important briefing that the Prime Minister is getting ahead of the official briefing that the armed forces will be doing at about 10:30 this morning. Of course, the government wants to make sure that they have all the information and accuracy. And it will be important to see if the government also decides to go ahead and brief other constitutional authorities, whether it's the Vice President of India, the President of India, etc. as well. That call has to be taken. But as of now, what we're given to understand that Ajit Doval is briefing the Prime Minister by the second. And we also reported earlier this morning, Dhaka, that the Prime Minister was monitoring the details right through the night. And of course, the war room also had a small group of people who were monitoring the situation. So whether it's a physical briefing or not, we're not really sure. But we do understand that Ajit Doval is still briefing the Prime Minister. And that is going to be an important briefing ahead of the official briefing that takes place at the National Media Center at 10:30 this morning.
Well, I think there is a reason why this has been delayed. Sushant Sareen, Tilak Devashar with us. Sushant Sareen, do you agree, disagree with Tilak Devashar that this time around Bharat's posture is that we will take the losses at a on hand right now, bear with it, brace for perhaps a certain level of impact, but continue to push through so that there is a long-term breakaway or deterrence for Pakistan in terms of fomenting terror on Indian soil?
Look, number one, I am convinced there is no long-term deterrence. You will have to keep re-establishing the deterrence, and you will have to keep building up your own defense sinews much more than what we have done over the last many years. Some years we've neglected it. But I think we will have to go up the escalation ladder. I have no doubt in my mind that we'll have to do it if the Pakistanis were to do something extremely provocative. If they were going to come and do something which, is water off a duck's back, then maybe, yes, we can just let it slide. But other than that, I think we will have to go up the escalation ladder. That's a no-brainer. But look, here is the thing. How far are the Pakis also going to be willing to go? And I think that is a calculation that they will also have to make, because they also know that there are very serious consequences that await them. All this bravado which they are showing, they can show. And let's also be very clear about one thing, Anand. Even in the past skirmishes and wars and conflicts that we've had with the Pakistanis, invariably what happens is that when this thing starts, they tend to pull a surprise or two over us. It has happened in Kargil, it has happened otherwise on a number of occasions. And then, our guys, they get their act together, they have their feet more firmly planted on the ground, and then they hit back with everything they've got. Now, the Pakis, if they want to go down that road, by all means, be my guest. But they will also have to factor in the consequences of what they will be getting into. So I think this is a calculation both sides will have to make. And my own sense is that we will have to go up, not because that is going to end this menace of terrorism. No, maybe it will give us some relief for a couple of years. And then, as Mr. Deveshwar says, there will be another army chief, if not in the next 3 years, 4 years, then in the next 10 years, maybe in the next 15 years. Asim Munir is not going to live forever, even though he's probably appointed himself army chief for life. But there will be a new army chief, right? And at that point of time, that guy will want to try something again. Or if Asim Munir's position becomes weak in the next 6 months, 1 year, he might be tempted to try it again. So I think the message which you have to deliver is, you try something like this, then there are these kind of consequences that are going to visit you. Which essentially means that we now have to be on a 24/7 kind of a vigil as far as Pakistan is concerned. And we need to increase our defense capabilities to a point where you don't even have to wait for 2 weeks anymore. You will retaliate within hours of any adventurism by the Pakistanis on the terrorism front or on any other front. And I think that is the direction in which we should move. But unfortunately, I think, we tend to be complacent after we do some things, and then we slide back into that element.
Is there a way to break out of that cycle? More importantly, are we willing to pay the cost to break out of that cycle, if at all there is a way to break out of that cycle? I'm also joined by Lieutenant General retired Subrat Saha, former member of the National Security Advisory Board and former GOC of the 15 Corps. General Saha, your first reaction to Operation Sindoor, and now what every guest has been saying to us since morning, that the Pakistanis will have to respond. They can't be seen as not responding. How does India then calibrate its response to a Pakistani response?
Thank you. Firstly, I think the operation has been named so aptly. The way the terrorists singled out the men and killed them in front of the women, and the significance of the Sindoor in India is so well understood. I think, as the ADGPI tweet puts it, the justice has been served. I think the operation in itself is named so well. And rightfully, as you asked, we have to be prepared for, retaliation. Even Shahbaz Sharif, in his tweet, has put it over there that they will retaliate. So I think we must be prepared across the spectrum, from a very base level of terrorist activity, and not necessarily restricted only to Kashmir, but across the country, because there are sleeper cells who are active all over the country, who will get activated all over the country, and of course, particularly in J&K. Apart from that, we are already seeing some excessive heating up of the line of control. As I speak to my friends over there, the firing has already been intensified. So expect it to be highly intense, because that already has started. And at the next level, as we can see, and we should be prepared, is engaging of more military targets by the Pakistan armed forces in the next 24 to 48 hours, unless some good sense prevails in Pakistan, because India, as far as we are concerned, have hit at the lowest rung of the escalatory ladder. Because if Pakistan chooses to climb up the escalatory ladder, they do not know what the hell is going to hit them. Because we have not touched their military installations, we have not touched their economic targets, so the scope of targets is actually endless. So it is better that Pakistan be forewarned, Pakistan be better advised by their sane friends not to go down that path. If they choose to go down that path, that country, which is so fragile, is going to pay a much heavier price than what it can possibly imagine. So I will leave it.
You've spoken about multiple aspects there, but in terms of climbing up the escalation ladder, Tilak Devasharji had a point. Ashok Malik is also with us. Good morning, Jai Hind. Major Manik Jolly also with us, defense expert. Jai Hind to you too. Thank you for joining us. This is continuous coverage. This is something which is historic, unprecedented. Bharat's military posture perhaps will be evaluated and reviewed by many across the world, given the kind of strikes that we have done and the precision with which we have executed this. But you heard General Saha, Major Manik Jolly. Do you agree, disagree with the fact that there could be a certain level of escalation by the Pakistanis, and there may be some elements, they may activate some of their proxies on our soil? Should Bharat immediately respond with perhaps a far more punitive calibration if there is anything that happens here? Any event that happens here, should we then move to a certain level of escalation?
Hi. I actually totally agree with what you were saying. There will be some action from Pakistan side. The reaction, it is just not about saving face in the local population, but also a military would like to, and since they are so bifurcated in that country, the decisions don't come as a calibrated and a cohesive decision between the military and the politician for government. The military, Asim Munir especially, would like to take this on and go ahead with some action. So India, but I would, if you ask just my personal opinion, this is the time we hold on for a moment. I think rather than taking it as we are building up on what we did last night, we should hold on and see what they are trying to do and then maybe respond in a more stronger way. Because now we are anticipating, this is all speculation that we are talking, that they'll do this or that. So let's just see what they do. Because there's a slight chance they might not react. Let's say even if it is 1%. That gives a tendency to, or even a possibility of this actually calming down the whole scenario for both the nations. And that is something that the governments might be looking at. So this is the time we should actually wait rather than thinking on escalating it even more. We have given our message. Operation Sindoor has been a fantastic success.
I think the statement that was put out by the army also makes it very clear that this is not escalatory in nature. We've not crossed the line of control. I've got Ashok Malik also joining us. So the nature of the conversations, the diplomatic fallout, Ashok, of this, conversations between the National Security Advisor and Secretary of State Marco Rubio, MAA officials have spoken to their counterparts in Saudi Arabia, UAE, etc. What is happening right now, you reckon, in South Bloc, and how does India manage the diplomatic fallout of Operation Sindoor?
I think the diplomatic fallout is fairly along expected lines and fairly measured. Apart from a few countries which remain Pakistan's steadfast allies, I've seen the Turkish foreign minister's response. Apart from those countries and perhaps Beijing, the fact is most countries don't have patience for Pakistan's terror infrastructure and expected some Indian response. They don't want a full-fledged war. Nobody does. Nobody in India does either. But they do expect some sort of a response. And I believe this response will have a lot of support because it has been a measured response, a targeted response. The Prime Minister and the military have collectively chosen very specific targets, attacking LET camps or the headquarters in Mudrike and the Jaish-e-Mohammed facility. These are not nursery schools.
All right, I think we've just lost him for a bit there, but he's back. Yeah.
Back. So these are nurseries of terror, and people would expect that they would be targeted. These are legitimate targets. The bigger message India has sent, to my mind, is that after Uri in 2016, we moved into POK, Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Balakot was in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. This time we have gone into Punjab, Pakistani Punjab. Asim Munir, said a few days ago that Kashmir is Pakistan's jugular vein, or the Pakistani army's jugular vein. Quite honestly, the Pakistani army's jugular vein is Punjab heartland. And we have, the Indian army has, the Indian military has, the Indian government has, and India as a country has shown that Pakistan's Punjab is itself vulnerable. We can strike that. There is a long-term implication to that message, which Pakistan will have to absorb and ponder.
Ashok, one more question before we let you go. Who are the countries right now in the world who have the leverage with Pakistan, and particularly with the Pakistani Defense Forces, Asim Munir, because ultimately whatever action they choose to take or not choose to take will be Asim Munir's decision. The civilian government, I guess, will sign off on it. Who are the countries right now who have the leverage with him to force him not to climb the escalation ladder?
Well, I suppose the only countries that really matter for him are the two big powers, China, which is his, in a sense, Pakistan's patron, and the US. But the degree to which he'll be able to listen to them is something I really doubt, because he has to save face after all his braggadocio over the past few weeks, and I expect he will want to respond in some manner. And I don't believe what we are seeing today is the end of it, to be honest.
And do you reckon that the IMF meeting, which is in a couple of days from now, I think it's $1 billion package of the overall $7 billion package, that will have any pressure to bear on how the Pakistanis choose to respond or not respond?
Well, I still believe even they'll probably respond after the meeting, if they do at all. But they wouldn't want to sort of queer the optics for that meeting. But for domestic face, the Pakistani army would have to respond. Remember, this is not a strike on some far-off frontier province. This is a strike in Punjab, Pakistani Punjab. And do remember, the Pakistani army only took the 65 war and India's response seriously when the Indian army went into Pakistani Punjab.
Correct.
So Punjab is their jugular vein. Punjab is their heartland. They will take this more seriously than frankly they took 2019 or 2016.
All right, Ashok Malik, thank you so much for joining us and putting your thoughts into perspective for our viewers. I also want to go across to another piece of breaking news. I think Amit Shah is just leaving his residence. We're not sure where he's headed to. He could likely be headed to 7 LKM, the Prime Minister's residence. He's also put out a tweet saying that the government has expressed its resolve that a befitting reply would be given to the perpetrators of Pahalgam, and that has now been achieved. Bharat firmly committed to eradicating terrorism. Operation Sindoor is a manifestation of that resolve. Let me go across to Payal Mehta, who has more details on this. Just walk us through what else the Home Minister has said in his tweet.
Well, of course, the Home Minister, as much as every citizen of the country, will be breathing a huge sigh of relief. Zaka, multiple questions were asked, what will India do? When will India take revenge? In fact, just a couple of days ago, when he was speaking at a function in the national capital, the first time since the attack, he came out and said, don't worry, India will seek its revenge as well. So obviously, it's a big occasion, for everybody. Everybody's rejoicing at this right now with the fact that Indian armed forces have been taking revenge, and the Home Minister putting out a tweet over there, acknowledging the contribution of the armed forces and, of course, the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And since you mentioned that he's left from his house, in all probability, he'll be heading to the location where I'm standing at. He'll be coming to the 7 Lokalyan Marg residence of the Prime Minister, given the fact that the cabinet is at 10 or something is what we're given to understand. But before that, CCS will take place, and CCS is where Amit Shah is also a member. So technically speaking, the Prime Minister will officially be briefed by various personnel in the CCS about what the activities really are. Multiple people have been briefing. Ajit Doval has been the key person who's been briefing him throughout. We, of course, do understand Dr. Jaishankar could also be working the phone lines. Ajit Doval himself has spoken to the US as well. And Mr. Jaishankar, I'm sure, has also spoken to multiple states. So where does this really stand? Where does the operation capability of India really stand over there? How to, go about further? Because it is nobody's guess that Pakistan will, in fact, strike back. At least the authorities and the armed forces are very well prepared for that as well.
All right. Payal, thanks for joining us. So lots of meetings happening right now. The Home Minister has just put out a tweet. This is his first reaction after Operation Sindoor. Remember, Home Minister was the first person to go to Pahalgam.
And Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh has left his residence. So I think the CCS meeting is going to get underway. Anshul is getting us this ground report.
On your screens right now is of Defence Minister Rajnath Singh leaving from his residence. Remember, this is the first visuals of Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, who is leaving from his residence at this point in time after India had carried out attacks inside the territory of Pakistan, and now Rajnath Singh has finally left from his residence. What sources are telling us that first he will go towards the South Block and then eventually join the cabinet meeting, which is already scheduled for today. So the first visuals of Rajnath Singh on your screens right now, as Rajnath Singh has just left from his residence and will be going towards the South Block at this point in time. With video journalist Arpit Singh, this is Anshul Singh for CNN News 18.
Well, what we are seeing now, the LOC shelling is targeting civilians. Now, let's try and go across to our guests and understand how does targeting the LOC and keeping it hot, General Saha, help the Pakistani cause? Targeting civilian shelters, some of the artillery has actually landed. It has actually landed right next to the UN field station in Punch also. So this is not going to help the Pakistani cause. We got more news coming through. Attacking terror hubs is a strong message. Top intelligence sources are telling CNN News 18 that high-profile strikes like this will force terrorists to operate in survival and hiding mode and reduce their ability to plan large-scale attacks on Bharatiya soil. This is a serious dent for new recruitments. Pakistan-based camps will no longer be seen as safe. New recruits may hesitate to join, so this could be a long-term deterrent. Bharat strikes have also added pressure on the Pakistanis. Pakistan's ISI will control terror proxies or risk further escalation. So there are the following fallouts could happen. Either they continue to harbor these proxies, but further deep into Pakistani territory. But we have shown that we can strike them wherever they are, up to 100 kilometers beyond the international border. We've been able to strike them. Anywhere, anything more westward, if they move, they come within the radar of the Baloch. They come within the radar of some of the other troublemakers who are troubling them on their western side. Siddhant is joining us with more. Siddhant, so clearly Bharat believes that this Operation Sindoor will act as a long-term deterrent because none of their open camps deep in Pakistani territory also now are safe.
Well, that's right, Anand. In fact, top intelligence sources are telling this to Manoj Gupta that these terror groups rely on Hawala networks, NGOs and front companies to fund operations. In fact, after the 2019 Balakot strike, Jaish-e-Mohammed faced temporary funding shortages due to donor panic. In fact, high-profile strikes like this force militants to operate in survival and hiding mode, and they reduce their ability to plan large-scale attacks. This is a serious dent, Anand, for new recruitments, and they feel Pakistan-based camps are no longer seen as safe. New recruits may hesitate to join these groups, Jaish-e-Mohammed and Lashkar-e-Taiba. In fact, India's strikes pressure Pakistan's ISI to control terror proxies or risk further escalation. In fact, after Balakot, Pakistan temporarily detained Jaish-e-Mohammed leaders to placate global scrutiny. Any attack on camps is nothing but an evidence of destroyed camps. It strengthens India's case at forums like FATF, as India is going to perhaps give efforts to get Pakistan again inducted into the grey list of FATF. So there where also it's going to help India. This is making it harder for Pakistan to shield these groups. In fact, Pakistan's military and ISI faces international heat after strikes. Post-strike, surviving militants may adopt guerrilla tactics, which are harder to execute and less impactful than coordinated strike. Perhaps India has given evidence of the 9 terror camps which have been targeted, and this is a proof perhaps which India will put forth at the international organizations to expose Pakistan.
Right now, so we've got a calibration ready at various levels to answer why certain actions have been taken. We'll get into the depth of why these 9 targets and where they are actually located and what strategic importance it is for Bharat, from Bharat's interest, to target these 9 locations in Pakistan. But before that, Zaka Jacob with us, Tilak Devashar, and also Manik Jolly, Major Manik Jolly with us, and Sushant Sareen with us. China's reaction, Zaka, that Shailendra Wangu has just put this out, that China has opposed all forms of terrorism. China finds India's military operation early this morning regrettable. The foreign ministry spokesperson is what has now been put out of the PRC, FMPRC. The statement very clearly says ongoing situation between India and Pakistan. China finds India's military operation early this morning regrettable. We are concerned about the ongoing situation. India and Pakistan are and will always be each other's neighbors. They are both China's neighbors as well. China opposes all forms of terrorism. We urge both sides to act in the larger interest of peace and stability, remain calm, exercise restraint, and refrain from taking actions that may further complicate the situation.
So, look, I think there are two parts to that statement. First, I think it is important that China has put out this statement because it is, as Ashok Malik was saying a moment ago, there's probably only two countries in the world right now which have some degree of leverage or influence in Islamabad. One is the United States, the other happens to be China. Yes, there will be consternation at the fact that China has used the word regrettable, that India's actions are regrettable. But look, those are mere words. It doesn't really matter. The question that we need to ask ourselves is China now going to sort of bring some pressure to bear, some influence to bear on Islamabad and specifically on General Asim Munir not to retaliate and, more importantly, not to climb the escalation ladder? We have to be very, very calibrated and clear here. India, if it goes into a full frontal war with Pakistan, has much more to lose than Pakistan. The size of our economy is 10 times that of Pakistan. India wanted to convey a calibrated but very definitive signal to Pakistan. It has done so with Operation Sindoor. I think this is what they've achieved today. Simultaneous strikes at 9 places is really uncharted territory as far as India's counterterrorism and counter-insurgency operations are concerned. It has been a joint operation by the Army, Navy, and the Air Force. These loitering munitions have been used, but at the same time, India has been very, very clear not to come across as escalatory. The statement said these are non-escalatory in nature. The LOC has not been crossed, and most importantly, no military targets have been hit. This was not mentioned after Balakot. This was not mentioned after Uri. So there's a reason why those sentences have been put in there. I think the signal to General Headquarters Rawalpindi is do not escalate. Do not climb the escalation ladder. And Tilak Devashir is here as well. A, what do you make of the China statement? And B, is this all now going to sort of play on Asim Munir's calculus as to what next step he can possibly take, whether he has the elbow room and the option to climb the escalation ladder?
See, before coming to that, I wanted to complete the point I was trying to make earlier that I got interrupted. What targets does Pakistan have? Pakistan will react, but what targets does it have? If it hits civilians or if it hits military targets, it's going up escalation majorly. Last time in Balakot, if you remember, it reacted by dropping munitions in a forest. It didn't hit anything. Terrorist strikes in India will only prove that Pakistan is a terror-sponsoring state. It will not satisfy the Pakistani public. So it will be a quandary for Pakistan. What exactly will they target? Right? Now, Asim Munir's position is going to become very delicate because it was his watch, it was his call to carry out the Pahalgam attacks. And now that India has hit back in this majorly way, first a non-kinetic action of holding the Indus Water Treaty, and now these 9 strikes, he is now on a very weak wicket and on the back foot. What does he do to retrieve his position? Forget Pakistan's position. What does he do to retrieve his position? So these are interesting dynamics that are going to play out in the next 24 to 36 hours. Coming to China's position, if you compare this with what Turkey had said, I think China's position, or China's statement has been far more refined. Turkey came out so comprehensively in favor of Pakistan. I think Pakistan is going to be a bit disappointed, except for the use of word regrettable. Pakistan is going to be disappointed with China, I say. They were looking for far greater support, and China coming out far more openly for Pakistan than what it has actually done.
Yes, fair. You make a fair point there, because somewhere when you read after the first line is a little targeted towards India when it uses the word regrettable, like you said, Tilakji. But after that, it is actually telling Pakistan to back off. It is somewhere telling Pakistan, don't climb up the escalator ladder, don't respond right now, don't do this, we don't need any more anything else that needs to happen. So somewhere there is an acceptance that this response was happened. What has happened is regrettable, but it's happened. It is going to happen. Accept it and then stay put. Now we got more news coming through, exclusive input from government sources. Amitabh Sinha is on the phone with us on what's happened early this morning. Even ahead of the attack on the terrorist camps in Pakistan, Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh met the three chiefs. NSA Ajit Doval had also visited the Raksha Mantri at his home to meet him. The meeting lasted for about an hour. Amitabh Sinha with us. Amitabh, पर तो क्या ये मीटिंग जो हुई थी ये प्रधानमंत्री और एनएसए की मीटिंग के बाद हुई थी कल देर शाम?
नहीं, उसके पहले ये पूरा उसका रनअप है आनंद, उसके बारे में बता दूं। लगातार सेना प्रमुख हर दिन रक्षा मंत्री को ब्रीफ कर रहे थे और रक्षा मंत्री प्रधानमंत्री से बात कर रहे थे। प्रधानमंत्री ने खुद तमाम रक्षा प्रमुखों से बात की थी और मुलाकात भी की थी, आपको याद होगा डिफेंस सेक्रेटरी से भी। लेकिन कल रात के घटनाक्रम में जो सबसे पहला हुआ ये अजीत डोवाल का रक्षा मंत्री से मिलना, रणनीति पे चर्चा, सेना कितनी तैयार है, तीनों अंग कितने तैयार हैं। सबसे खास बात जो आनंद ये इस बैठक की, कल रात में जब ऑपरेशन पूरा हो गया, ऑपरेशन सिंदूर, उसके बाद राजनाथ सिंह रक्षा मंत्री ने तीनों सेनाध्यक्षों से फोन पर लंबी बात की कि अगर पाकिस्तान जो कभी मानता नहीं है और कभी सुधरने की कोशिश भी नहीं करता है, अगर वो कुछ पलटकर कुछ कार्रवाई करने की कोशिश करता है तो भारत की सेना कितनी तैयार है सीमाओं पर और वायु सेना कितनी तैयार है, इसके ऊपर पूरी तरह से उन्होंने रणनीति पर चर्चा की है। और वो अभी घर से निकले, 11 बजे कैबिनेट है, मुझे लगता है सीसीएस भी होगी जिसमें ब्रीफ किया जाएगा। तो मुझे लगता है ये राजनाथ सिंह लगातार हर रणनीति में शामिल थे, ये बात यही दर्शा रही है।
जी धन्यवाद। तो यानी रक्षा मंत्री राजनाथ सिंह was also kept abreast. He was involved soon after the operation. He's spoken with the three service chiefs for nearly an hour to look at what will be our response or our defense mechanism, our posture and readiness if there is a reprisal or counter that comes in from the Pakistanis. So everybody has been involved. The intelligence has been right in the thick of it with the NSA Ajit Doval spearheading all of this. Sushant Sareen, clearly whole of government far more calibrated. JP Nadda, the BJP president, has also now tweeted. He's saying this is Bharat's message on Pahalgam. If you tease us, we won't let you go. Prime Minister Narendra Modi said those who attack the soul of India will be given severe punishment. India is both capable and determined to uproot terrorism from its roots. We will eradicate the scourge of terrorism. #Operation Sindoor. So everybody has spoken. Everybody has reacted. The Prime Minister perhaps still waiting. There is no comment on his Twitter handle. There's no word from him. Will there be a video message from the PM soon after the press briefing? We'll have to wait and watch. But Sushant Sareen, calibrated whole of government approach, largely driven by the NSA at the helm. He seems to have been spearheading while collaborating and keeping everybody in the loop. A select group of people.
Anand, all of that is okay, but from what your reporter just told us, I am wondering that if after having launched the attack on Pakistan, the Raksha Mantri is calling the defense chiefs to find out what we will do if Pakistan retaliates, then I have some serious questions about defense planning in this country. I mean, this was a pretty no-brainer that something is going to come from their side. So I think there's a gap in what your reporter is reporting. It can't be like that. Because I think the armed forces would have been primed up and would already be primed up about this fact that there will be something coming from the Pakistanis. See, and the rest of it is a lot of rhetoric, right? I think that rhetoric part is for now needs to be laid to rest because now we've entered another zone altogether. We are out of that rhetoric zone of what happens. That when each side is threatening the other side to janta nahi hai main kaun hu. I think we've transcended that and we've entered into a completely different zone where action reaction cycle is now going to be underway, and I think that is what we need to focus on. What do the Pakistanis target? Do they target places in Kashmir, or do they target cities in rest of India? What are the cities they target in? What are the targets they pick? And if those are gravely provocative, then what is our response going to be? Is it going to be proportionate? Is it going to be more than proportionate? Is it going to be seriously punitive? So I think we are now in that zone. And That is what we should be talking about. Baki, all these statements will continue to be made. There'll be those typical third-rate fellows who will make, carping sounds and raise all kinds of issues and doubts. And there will be those guys who will keep doing chest thumping. And I would imagine that the better thing to do would be to move away from that rhetoric and focus on the substantive part.
Right. Pallavi Ghosh is also with us. Pallavi, what are we expecting? The press briefing has been delayed till 10:30.
Well, yes, that's right. It's now been postponed by half hour, but you can see the arrangements are completely in place. And there's going to be a PPT presentation also right over here. So what we are being told is it is just going to stick facts. There is not going to be any interactive session. That's certainly not been planned as of now. Representatives from the Air Force, the Armed Forces, as well as the MEA, all of them are going to be there over here, and all the details of Operation Sindoor will be given out. But of course, the security concerns will always be factored in. Apart from that, there is a PPT presentation which is going to be put up. Is going to give up the details of the operations, the impact of the operations. But the cardinal rule which is being followed over here is to ensure that it's a complete fact check. There are going to be a lot of lies which have now been peddled by the Pakistani government and Pakistan influencers. All of that is being fact-checked. What repeatedly we're being told by the government is that we can understand the frustration of the Pakistanis and the Pakistani government, but we really need to stick to facts. And the facts are something which are going to be given out in a short while from now. And very quickly, preparations for this big operations have been going on. We've been seeing how there has been a gherawing of Pakistan diplomatically, economically, the government making it very clear that they have the wherewithal, they have the finances, there's nothing to worry about. So it's been seen as a win-win situation. Yesterday, for example, the FTA, which was signed with UK, was a larger messaging to the world that India's stature globally is also something which is being recognized. And I think the kind of words which are coming in from the global leaders and the players, and of course back home over here, minor 1 or 2, all of this endorses the fact that it was not a one which was unprovoked. It was something which was waiting to happen. It was a cry for justice. But more than that, if you look at the brief statement which was issued immediately after Operation Sindoor, it very categorically mentioned that we followed the rules. It was not unprovoked. It was not off the cuff. It was also something which followed the rules, and we have conducted it in a very coordinated, systematic manner.
Right. So Omar Abdullah, the Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister, is having a cabinet meeting. So there could be an emergency conversation there. Those are the pictures that are just coming in from Srinagar, where the Jammu and Kashmir cabinet is having a conversation. There are people who have joined via also joined online. So this is the Chief Minister having a conversation. Earlier, the LG had a conversation with the entire group of DCs in the districts along the LOC, the regions along the LOC, to move civilians to safety, to evacuate certain residences right on the line of control, because there's some heavy pounding that's happening, artillery firing that's coming in from the Pakistanis, some of those shells landing right next to the UN field station. Now, how and why is this going to help? Manik Jolly, quick word. This kind of firing along the LOC to try and keep it hot, how does it help the Pakistanis, or how does it help any cause, even in terms of retaliation or retribution?
So it exactly used the right word, retribution and retaliation. This is what they're trying to prove, that you come inside, you strike inside, we will get back to you. And they know that if they start taking on the military, the retaliation from our side will be much stronger. So they go ahead and bombard the villages, the civilians, just to create the chaos. This has been a tactics earlier to, support the infiltration also. It could be a quite possibility that one of the plans that they are making, once you start the artillery, the infiltration starts. They want to maybe a quick reaction from their side would be, let's do a terrorist attack. Right. Let's send in more terrorists. So this could be a mix of everything and anything.
Right. Let's just, with Sushant Sareen and Manik Jolly, let's try and look at some of the 9 targets. The 9 targets, and let's try and break this down for our viewers if we can. And Manik Jolly, help me out here as we will, you turn around and we just talk about this. So which are the targets? Let's try and understand, viewers, which are the targets, and understand the layout, the geographical layout of each of these targets, and why it is a critical installation that's been now brought down. So let's start with the biggest one, that is the Jaish's target in Bahawalpur. Can we go full frame to this? Can we zoom in on this, please? Yeah. So there you go. So this is the Markaz, Subhanallah. So I'm going to, 1 second. There you go. Let's get this right. Okay. So this is Markaz, Subhanallah. This is the first one. This is Bahawalpur in Punjab. Now, this is the Jaish's headquarter. This entire acreage, this entire region, this has now spread. The Jaish has actually grown bigger and bigger from about 2 acres to about 14 to 15 acres of occupancy. This one that they have here. Let's try and see the lay of this place. They have now got behind this swimming pool. They have got a gym. They've got a training center. This is what has been targeted. The Jaish's hub, which can host at least 600 people.
Yeah.
How critical, important, and what kind of messaging is it that this structure now, this entire place now, stands destroyed?
Let's say this is the corporate headquarters of terrorism. Once you take that out, the biggest message that goes is we are not just hunting you in jungles. We can get you anywhere. That's the biggest message that goes. So yes, you can build a building again, but it's the messaging that counts, that you are nowhere safe. We will get you wherever you are.
So this is the Jaish HQ. So this one, now this has been completely destroyed. So this is destroyed. So this is one, and this is deep in Punjab. So about 90 kilometers from the Indian border. So 90 kilometers from IB. So this is one of the biggest ones that's been destroyed.
So it is critical to understand that when we are talking of this airstrike, maybe we didn't have to actually go beyond the IB. The missiles that Rafale has, especially the Scalp, right? It has fantastic range for this, low flying. It has a very small cross section. It is beyond. It can jump through the. It's one of those which has inertial navigation.
Correct.
Even if the jammers they jam the GPS navigation, it can do it on its own. Jump through the systems of air defense. And in the terminal phase is when you are about to hit. It picks on the target. It has a special capability. Like when it is sent, a picture is given to the missile. This is how it looks. Like this one we are seeing here.
Right.
And then it goes directly to it. You can't waver.
You can't waver. So that means the picture is identified, and that's why when they use the term loitering munition, there is a dynamic to it and there is an importance to it. Let's look at the next target that was now look at. So this is Markaz-e-Taiba. So if we look at Markaz-e-Taiba is the headquarters of the Lashkar. So Markaz-Taiba is once again somewhere in the city in Muridke. This is the one that's been targeted. The significance of targeting the LET headquarters. This is not as big as the Jaish, but this is the second terror hydra.
But we have a lot of hisab kitab with LET. Right? So it is great that we took them out.
What is the, so this is the LET headquarters. This is Markaz-Taiba. This is LET headquarters. This is also in Pak, Punjab. So, and Muridke is just about 30 kilometers from Lahore.
More or less.
So if we have targeted this place, which is 30 kilometers from Lahore, that means we can strike at will.
Not only that, we are striking in Punjab.
Deep into Pak.
In Punjab. That is their nerve center, right? They get very touchy if you're touching Punjab. In previous wars, we've seen, a speaker was mentioning that earlier also, that if you can get into, now we are not limited to artillery shelling or a normal strike on a post on LC. We are going to deep into territory. This is, let's say, hometown of the royalty of their army.
Right.
So they take it very seriously. And the reason all these terrorist centers are in Punjab is because this is terrorism royalty and ISI royalty living hand in hand.
And yeah, so the ISI military installations also not so far away from this place. So let's look at the next target that has been brought down. This is the Sejal Tehra Kala. Now, Sarjal, we are given to understand, is a Jaish hub. It looks like a small medical center, but this is a huge training camp. They say at least 600 to 700 people are being trained at a given point in time. 600 cadre here. Now, so this is again a big training center. And the location of this place, Sarjal, not very far from the this one. Not very far from the LOC. This area, Sarjal Tehra Kala.
A great thing that gets resolved for everybody in this country asking questions about intelligence and this and that. It is not that we have found all these guys in 5 days or 2 weeks.
Correct.
We have been collating data. We have been gathering information, and it is their technique to hide. It is their tactics to hide in civilian areas because they thought they are safe. No air raid is ever going to come. So we use smartest of the ammunition.
Now, interestingly, it is called a health center or a government hospital. It is supposed to be. Okay, and government hospital on paper, but it is actually a terror camp. So, isse zyada, what this is a very Hamas style thing that they are doing.
Exactly. Exactly.
Very, very Hamas style, no? Their operations.
Yeah. And although since the Gaza and everything is a very small patch of land compared to what Pakistan is, let's say, but the tactics remain the same. Let's hide within the population. It makes transport very easy, coming and going out.
Correct.
It makes surveillance very complicated.
Right.
It gives you a sense of security. Nobody is going to attack us. We are surrounded by civilians. All that. But what India did is like, fine, in this entire maze, you are sitting here. We'll send you the best of the ammunition that will hit you in that small house, and we'll take you down there only.
Take you down their road. So now let's move to the next one. Now this is again very, very critical. The next one is Mahmoona Joya. Now Mahmoona Joya brings in another jihadi tanzim. Now Mahmoona Joya, this region, Mahmoona Joya is actually HM. That is Hizbul. So this is the Hizbul camp. So, and this is Salahuddin.
Yeah. So you see, this is a little different from that built-up area.
Again, 200 to 300 cadre is what we are saying.
The difference between two would be at one place the indoctrination happens, training happens. You are training their minds. You're making them radical. These are the players where physical trainings would be happening. They are making them run, fire, train on explosives, all that. That is the difference between these two camps. The previous ones, which we saw in the civil, surrounded by civilians, and this one. So this is definitely a training camp where the physical training happens. There the indoctrination and management happens.
Yeah, and aap dekhein iske aaspaas it is quite open. It is in an area which is ghati area in the sense valley area, lot of khet, khalian and all of that, right, is in the middle of that. So there could be terrain training that is happening, how to survive, lay of the land, physical training that physical.
You see the access routes going there. You see one major road. So these are very perfectly selected places. Once the crops come up, nobody can charge you from the crop.
Right.
So there's only one access in, one access out.
Right.
So they do take care of all these things. You find these road charts very interesting when you look at all these things.
Right. Let's just pause here. So we've looked at 3 terror hideouts right now. 4 camps we've seen. 2 belonging to the Jaish. 1 belonging to the headquarters of the Lashkar, 1 of the Hizbul Mujahideen. We will move to the Markaz Ahle Hadith. But before that, we've just got news coming through. The Chief of Defence Staff, General Alit Chauhan, has now briefed. We are given to understand the Raksha Mantri. So we'll try and understand the news. Payal is joining us with a detail. Brief Defence Minister Rajnath Singh at South Block. So let's try and go across to Payal. We'll go back to the remaining terror camps and the bases in a bit. Yes, Payal.
Multiple briefings are taking place. Anand, just a short while ago, we reported how Ajit Doval, the NSA, was constantly briefing Prime Minister Narendra Modi of the developments. And of course, Rajnath Singh, who left from his residence a short while ago, has been briefed by the Army Chief and the Chief of Defence Staff, is what we are given to understand. And shortly, all of them will come to the local and mark residence of the Prime Minister, given the fact that the Prime Minister has called for a cabinet meeting. Before that, the CCS will also take place. It will be interesting to see if the service chiefs also join the meeting of the CCS, because they are, of course, special invitees on special occasions as well. So that's the information that is coming in. So multiple rounds of meeting taking place, multiple briefings taking place, because obviously, technically, a proper briefing of the Prime Minister will have to take place at some stage or the other. And of course, those visuals are awaited as the Prime Minister's office gives it out to us. But it's 10 minutes past 10, and you have another 40 minutes to go before all these meetings begin at the residence of the Prime Minister, where I'm really at.
Right. Is it confirmed that Vikram Misri ji will also be there in the briefing?
Well, my sources in the Ministry of External Affairs and credible sources have indicated that not just Vikram Misri, but other senior officials, of course, to do with Pakistan-Afghanistan region, will also be there in the briefing. Vikram Misri will in fact be holding the briefing, is what my sources have confirmed, Anand. That's the development that is coming in. So India and first making their own military officers do the briefing. Along with that, India understands that there's a lot of implications. India's geopolitical position is also entirely different right now when the world looks towards India to see what India is going to do, how India is going to strike back at Pakistan.
Right.
And the responses are there for everybody to really see, and support has continued to pour in as far as India's wish to avenge the revenge is concerned. So a
Right.
briefing by Vikram Misri will be extremely critical to tell us what the geopolitical scenario post the attacks really looks like.
So you are at 7 LKM, right outside the Prime Minister's residence come office, where the CCS is likely to happen. Let's go across to Arunima, who's joining us from the National Media Center, where we are expecting the briefing. Arunima, they should be getting ready in about 16 minutes. The briefing should get underway. How many chairs are there? And have they put out the nameplates? Who is sitting where and who are all going to be there?
The nameplates are still not up. They are still face down. But the ME officials who are present there have given us enough indication that the Foreign Secretary is going to be present at the briefing. There will be a representation from the Indian Air Force. You could see a woman officer also briefing. Of course, the Indian Army and the Indian Air Force have collaborated to carry out this precise action against Pakistan-based terror camps. So both of them will be there to brief. And I can tell you that, officials from the Union Home Ministry, from the Ministry of Defense, and from the Ministry of External Affairs, all three wings of our security in North Block and South Block are represented in that conference hall. And there is a full-fledged spread out of the international media as well. It is not clear yet whether questions will be allowed. Indications initially was that it will just be a readout, a statement, and a PowerPoint presentation. However, we'll have to see if a couple of questions are taken. That I think is the reason why the press conference was also delayed by about half an hour, because final calls are still being taken as to whether this should just be a statement.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your input, Arunima. We'll come back to you in just a bit. Let's quickly, even as we are counting down 15 minutes to go for the briefing to get underway, let's try and understand some of the other targets that have been taken out. So far, we've covered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 targets that were taken out. 2 of them hubs of LET, 2 of the Jaish, 1 of the Hizbul Mujahideen. This is Markaz Harith. Now, this is again another region. As we are coming up further, we are coming up from down south in Punjab towards the LOC, and we are coming into these regions where the Markaz Harith, again, LET hub. So it's an LET hub. Can you talk? And if you look at the lay, this is again seems to be another 300 to 500 cadre, terror cadre who are usually in this area, this place. What's the significance of this? This is again an LET camp.
So this Anand, this is again typically a training camp, which would be, let's say, managed by a couple of senior leaders.
Right.
This is the proximity to LOC suggests that this becomes a pre-stage to the launching pads. Launching pads are that extreme, like where you just stay for a couple of days and move for infiltration. So this would be their place where people will be getting their weapons, ammunition, getting final training, briefings, all that. So all these different centers which have been taking out, let's say India is targeting the chain of command in terms of operations of terrorists.
Right.
It is not just about corporate headquarters. It's about their training camps. It's about their launching pads. It's about infrastructure also. So these are like training camps.
Again, training camps coming too. We'll also look at one of the other. Now let's move to this place. This is Kotli. So there were 2 targets in Kotli. Kotli had 2 targets. One was Markaz Abbas in Kotli. The other one, now Kotli is further. Now we are getting into the POK region, isn't it? Closer into the POK region. And from here, the LOC is not so far away, not more than 5.
You've already reached the terrain which is, telling you this is the infiltration.
Place. You see, you have a look at the terrain itself. This is one of the ghatis, hills. So piche wahan pe hill hoga, and on the other side is Bharat, right? So this is the occupied territory of the Pakistanis. This is Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. This is Kotli. This village is actually seen from the last village on the LOC on the Bharat side.
So this would be one of those closer ones where they would move ahead into India for infiltration. So all these are successive places where different kind of activities happen.
Right. I'm just going to stay on Kotli and quickly look at the other part. This is Markaz Rahil Shahid. Now, Rahil Shahid, interestingly, is not so far away. And this is again a Jaish training camp.
This is a pure launch pad kind of a situation.
This is a launch pad. So if you look at the terrain itself, so it showcases that this area looks like this looks like a launch pad by default.
Yeah.
This Rahil
So
Shahid.
you see that track going down into the Nala.
Yeah.
That track going on. So so you can't climb cliffs. You have to follow paths. So these places become a default launching pads or launching stations. So it's very good that we are taking them out also, because large cadres stay here. They get trained here. They understand terrain. They look at our deployment. It's good that we are destroying them also.
Right. Now, the last one is Muzaffarabad. We'll go across to the Muzaffarabad bit very quickly. But first, news coming through. We'll take you through the last. The Muzaffarabad is very interesting. Right opposite the Red Fort, within 3 kilometers of each other, one Jaish camp and one Lashkar camp. Both will show which have been targeted. Muzaffarabad is the capital of Pak-occupied Jammu Kashmir. Let's try and look at news coming through. Home Minister Amit Shah has spoken to DG BSF, the LG of Jammu and Kashmir, Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir, and has given instructions to take people to safe places in the border areas. The Home Minister has also instructed them to keep strong vigil on the border areas. Arunima now joining us with more details. Arunima, clearly the LG has already had a chat with the DCs. The Chief Minister has had a cabinet meeting and they are prepared for all emergencies. Srinagar Airport, Jammu Airport have been shut. But the Home Minister also on top of things with respect to safety of people, and also to try and prevent any incident that could have been planned by Pakistan or its proxies on our soil.
Especially in the Rajouri-Poonch sector, the ceasefire violation that is happening, the constant shelling that is happening from Pakistan side is leading to loss of life. The civilian casualties there are mounting, and this has to be avoided, and therefore instructions have been given out by the Home Minister that all houses or all villages which are in line of fire should be evacuated, and the civilian population must be moved to the nearest bunkers. There are community bunkers there. Already there was a mock drill that was planned for today. So the civil defense volunteers and the civilians there are also almost ready. The livestock of these villagers are also to be moved out. That's an instruction that has been given by the Home Minister. He is in constant touch with Director General of the Border Security Force, Daljit Chaudhary, because not only is the Rajouri-Poonch sector hot, but eyes are also to be kept on Jammu, Punjab, Gujarat and Rajasthan. Since morning, we have been checking and there's been nothing untoward along the international border. Jammu all the way up to Rajasthan. So far, nothing untoward has been reported. But Home Minister is in direct communication with DG BSF, taking constant update to see whether this area is also peaceful or not. Home Secretary, meanwhile, has just arrived at North Block, and he's been also instructed to regularly monitor the situation as it's unfold. Tonight will be critical as far as the civilian population along the line of control are concerned.
Right, and shortly more news coming through. Thanks, Arunima. Shortly, MEA and Forces joint briefing is going to happen. Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri, Colonel Sophia Qureshi, and Wing Commander Vyomika Singh will be addressing the media. This is very, very big that you will have 2 women officers who will be addressing the briefing and addressing the media, conducting the briefing on Operation Sindoor. And we have the Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri. So a whole of government approach, not just the military or the armed forces aspect. The female officers or women officers, women personnel there to conduct the briefing. We also have the diplomatic might there of Bharat with the Foreign Secretary sitting there and also presiding over this briefing. Vikram Misri to be there. We'll go across to Akash. Akash joining us with more details. Yes, Akash.
So, Anand, we have seen the code name of this.
Thank you.
I think there was just some basic instruction asking everybody to settle down at the NMC, the National Media Center. We cut to it. These are pictures coming in via the news feed. But yes, Akash, go ahead, please. Akash, so perhaps 2 female officers, women officers who are now going to be doing the briefing.
Also, Anand, very important update is that we are learning that this time around, forces are going to provide and in fact present important evidence of the sort of destruction that has happened on the other side, the sort of target, in fact, that they had engaged with, and in fact, the sort of destruction. Because last time around, in fact, we have seen in the operations that how, several parties from within the country were asking for the evidences. But now I'm learning, and Ministry of Defense sources are telling me that this time around, not only they will be briefing about the operation that was conducted midnight, but also will be presenting several sort of evidences of the kind of destruction that these attacks, have carried out in Pakistan.
Well, thank you. And I'm just going to check. This is more big news. This is really big news that's coming through. Big statement from the Pakistan Defense Minister, where the Pakistan Defense Minister has apparently made a major claim. He has come out and said, and we'll try and get confirmation on that the Pak army and Pak military will refrain from any further ops if Bharat decides to halt its operations. So we will let it lie here. We will not escalate further. A big statement coming in that the Pak military will refrain from further ops if Bharat halts its operations. Akash now joins us with more. Akash, so Khwaja Asif, from going around to saying that either we exist or nobody exists just less than 24 hours ago, is now saying that the Pak military will refrain if Bharat halts operations. That means clearly international pressure is working.
Yes, definitely. It seems like, there is some sort of pressure that is making the defense minister say this. But then, Anand, we know about, the intentions of Pakistan. We have seen in the past that how, back in 1999, in fact, in 2000, in fact, they dished the sort of promises that they made. And in fact, this time around, while this is sending a larger message that they want India to, halt the operations so that, condition cannot get escalate further. But this time around, if at all we can trust them, this is the big question, Anand.
Well, we got Lieutenant General Rakesh Sharma also joining us at this point. Major Manik Jolly with us. Lieutenant General Rakesh Sharma, Jai Hind, good morning. Big move by Bharat, 9 targets. We've seen 7 of them, the last 2 in Muzaffarabad, where a Jaish and a Lashkar training areas not so far away from the Red Fort area of Muzaffarabad have also been now neutralized, totally destroyed. The Bahawalpur Jaish headquarters totally reduced to rubble. And now Pakistan is turning around and saying that we will not take any further action if India promises to halt all military operations. So is this a smoke screen? Can we take the Pakistanis to their word? Or is this the result of huge international pressure on Pakistan to de-escalate?
Oh, thank you for inviting me. Firstly, it's a day for all of us to be proud of. The operation was tri-services. It was well coordinated and it was technological in nature, where, in addition to missiles and aircrafts and the artillery guns, there were also loitering ammunition and drones used. So, it is something to be proud of, and, we should look forward to a better synergy being created here. Now, having said that, what would the Pakistanis do hereafter? You see, what happens to the 1,000-year war, which they've been talking of from 1965 when Bhutto spoke in United Nations, or the war by 1,000 cuts? Despite everything, despite all good gestures that we have made in so many years, and Prime Minister Vajpayee's visit and Prime Minister Modi's visit and, Agra and you name it, they have always turned back at the last moment and, hit us where, in the regular time. So to say that you believe in, it is important for us to be prepared. If they back out, well, it is not expected of them, because Pakistan military is, or especially the army, is the custodian of national security, and it's a national security state. They have to prove their worth to their people, and the people themselves are nationalized in big fervor because of what's happening here. I think there would be pressure on Pakistan army to respond in some manner or the other. Hence, at this juncture, he says with a pinch of salt, or maybe more than that, and be prepared for a response, maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow night, and work to that end.
But the briefing is about to start in about 5-10 minutes now. 10:35 a.m. is what we are given to understand. But this is a big statement coming in from the Pak Defense Minister. Is this the conversation with the American NSA or Marco Rubio's impact? Is it because they have not got huge endorsement from the Chinese? Is it the Pakistanis saying that only Turkey is the only one that has come out and given them some support, but there is no military support for them? How should Bharat look at the defense minister's statement? Should we take it at face value, or should we be at the ready to say, ek harkat karoge? Because if they don't want to take military action, why is the LOC so hot, sir?
So the LOC is hot. the IB is not hot. Unlike what happened in Pahalgam, we have not mobilized. So our formations located in hinterland, in Hyderabad or in Sagar or Madhya Pradesh, they have not moved up. There is a clear indication. This is not what happened in brass tacks. This is not what happened in Pahalgam. We have not mobilized our forces which are tailored for offensives across into Pakistan. A clear message has been given out that we do not want escalation of a full-fledged war. So, taking that message forward, and it is conveyed across to the global people saying that Indian armed forces are not mobilized for war. The leaves have not been cancelled. Courses are continuing. So there is the overall ambit of situation. It is clear that we have not escalated to a war, and we have already hit only what we wanted to hit, which are terrorist targets. Now, if the Pakistanis have to respond, there are no terrorist targets in India. They have to hit actually some kind of either the civilian establishments or hit an airport or hit a cantonment or hit a infrastructure.
Right.
Now, once you hit an infrastructure thing, it will escalate beyond control because they will be, Pakistan is so vulnerable to infrastructure being hit by us. And if they're trying to hit military installations, then obviously there will be a response to military installations.
No,
so there is no quid pro quo target available to Pakistanis to hit in India in a manner that which we have targeted.
No,
However,
but they don't have anything which allows them to go off ramp. They don't have anything to go back and tell their people, or are they going to just go back on their bluster that हमने ये brigade headquarter गिरा दिया, हमने ये 2 विमान गिरा दिए, हमने ये कर दिया, 15 location पे missile भेज दी. All these claims, false flag claims that they are making, will they then use that? Because the defense minister coming out and saying that we are willing to refrain if Bharat halts operations. Bharat has very clearly said that we targeted, this is what, this far and no further as far as we are concerned. This is not escalatory in nature. This is the lowest denomination of hitting that we are doing. And that to only terror camps. We have not targeted any civilian establishment. We have not targeted any military installation.
So good. If we believe in what they are saying, Pakistan Army survives on anti-Indianism and on Jammu and Kashmir over the last 8 decades. Now to say that they would backtrack, there is a possibility because we've been hearing about problems within Pakistan Army against the chief. Maybe there is some truth into that matter, that he doesn't have the following that he claims to have it. And so there can be manifold reasons. And I would add on to what you said, Mark Rubio's called, or what President Trump made a statement in the morning saying it's a shame. All these things you add together, maybe the caution has been applied on Pakistan because they know it will be, it will be responded back. Any escalation, then now hereafter they would be responsible. Having said that, they are already bragging about having downed 5 aircraft, or all those issues that they are raising. Let's have a clarification on what has been the total effect of what has been carried out yesterday night, and then discuss. I would still feel, that we need to be cautious of what Pakistanis will respond. They responded last year to even Iran, which is their thinking country. They responded by using loitering ammunition and missiles against Iran in a day after Iran had hit them. So, to say that you take them at a face value, no, sir, I would avoid taking them on face value.
Jay, I think he's spoken and he said this to foreign media. We're given to understand he said it to Bloomberg. I'm just going to try and play out the audio on my phone and see if we can catch it.
As far as the attacks of Indian Air Force are concerned, on 7 different locations, 2 in independent Kashmir, 1 in Muzaffarabad, other at Kotli, and 5 other locations in Pakistan.
The question right now that's hanging here is how far is Pakistan willing to go here?
It all depends upon that. This has been initiated by India. If India is ready to back down, they have taken the initiative. We have just responded. We have been saying all along last fortnight that we'll never initiate anything hostile towards India. But if we are attacked, we'll respond. If India backs down, we will definitely wrap up these things, but as long we are under attack, under fire, we have to respond, we have to defend ourselves.
So that's what he has said, that if India... So Akash with us, Payal is with us, Arunima is with us. Quickly, just going across to our reporters. Major Manik Jolly, quickly, how would you want to respond to what Khwaja Asif has said? If India backs down, we will wrap up. What is it for them to wrap up? And Bharat has already done what it needs to do. We are not going to do anything else unless Pakistan does anything now.
I think the 2 points...
That's what the armed forces have said.
Yeah, there are 2 points that are very critical actually, and I almost agree 100% to what General Sharma said. Firstly, we are putting action where our words are. If we had moved our strike formations, if we had escalated the deployment on borders, if we had cancelled leave, we had done all those. If we had given all those signals, that means we are ready for war. Then our saying this is just a measured, this is just a limited offensive, won't have made any sense. So we are showing them we are cool and pretty. We are sitting here, we are doing our stuff.
Right.
And secondly, we should not trust them.
Going across live to the pictures where we see Wing Commander Vyomika Singh, Colonel Sophia Qureshi and Vikram Misri ready for the briefing. Huh.
नमस्कार। इस ब्रीफिंग में शामिल होने के लिए आप सभी का धन्यवाद। जैसा कि आप सभी जानते हैं, 22 अप्रैल 2025 को लश्कर तैयबा से संबंधित पाकिस्तानी और पाकिस्तान प्रशिक्षित आतंकवादियों ने भारत में जम्मू और कश्मीर के पहलगाम में भारतीय पर्यटकों पर बर्बरतापूर्ण हमला किया। 25 भारतीयों और एक नेपाली नागरिक को कायरतापूर्ण मौत के घाट उतार दिया गया। मुंबई के 26 नवंबर 2008 के हमलों के बाद यह भारत में हुई किसी आतंकवादी हमले में मारे गए आम नागरिकों की संख्या की दृष्टि से सबसे गंभीर घटना है। पहलगाम का हमला अत्यधिक बर्बरतापूर्ण था, जिसमें वहां मौजूद लोगों को करीब से और उनके परिवारों के सामने सिर पर गोली मारी गई। हत्या के इस तरीके से परिवार के सदस्यों को जानबूझकर आघात पहुंचाया गया। साथ ही उन्हें यह नसीहत भी दी गई कि वे वापस जाकर इस संदेश को पहुंचा दें। यह हमला स्पष्ट रूप से जम्मू और कश्मीर में बहाल हो रही सामान्य स्थिति को बाधित करने के उद्देश्य से किया गया था। चूंकि पर्यटन फिर से अर्थव्यवस्था का मुख्य आधार बन रहा था, इस हमले का मुख्य उद्देश्य इसे प्रतिकूल रूप से प्रभावित करना था। पिछले वर्ष आप सभी जानते हैं 2.25 करोड़ से अधिक पर्यटक कश्मीर आए थे। इस हमले का मुख्य उद्देश्य इसलिए संभवतः यह था कि इस संघ राज्य क्षेत्र में विकास और प्रगति को नुकसान पहुंचाकर इसे पिछड़ा बनाए रखा जाए और पाकिस्तान से लगातार होने वाले सीमा पार आतंकवाद के लिए उपजाऊ जमीन बनाने में सहायता की जाए। हमले का यह तरीका जम्मू और कश्मीर और शेष राष्ट्र दोनों में सांप्रदायिक दंगे भड़काने के उद्देश्य से भी प्रेरित था। इसका श्रेय सरकार और भारत के सभी नागरिकों को दिया जाना चाहिए कि इन प्रयासों को विफल कर दिया गया। एक समूह ने खुद को रेजिस्टेंस फ्रंट टीआरएफ कहते हुए इस हमले की जिम्मेदारी ली है। यह समूह संयुक्त राष्ट्र द्वारा प्रतिबंधित पाकिस्तानी आतंकवादी समूह लश्कर ए तैयबा से जुड़ा हुआ है। यह उल्लेखनीय है कि भारत ने मई और नवंबर 2024 में संयुक्त राष्ट्र की 1267 कमेटी की सैंक्शंस मॉनिटरिंग टीम को अर्धवार्षिक रिपोर्ट प्रस्तुत की थी, जिसमें टीआरएफ के बारे में साफ इनपुट दिए गए थे। इससे पाकिस्तान स्थित आतंकवादी समूहों के लिए कवर के रूप में टीआरएफ की भूमिका सामने आई थी। इससे पहले भी दिसंबर 2023 में भारत ने इस टीम को लश्कर ए तैयबा और जैश ए मोहम्मद के बारे में सूचित किया था, जो टीआरएफ जैसे छोटे आतंकवादी समूहों के माध्यम से अपनी गतिविधियों को संचालित कर रहे हैं। इस संबंध में 25 अप्रैल को यूएन सिक्योरिटी काउंसिल प्रेस वक्तव्य में टीआरएफ के संदर्भ को हटाने के लिए पाकिस्तान के दबाव पर भी ध्यान दिया जाना चाहिए। पहलगाम आतंकवादी हमले की जांच से पाकिस्तान के साथ आतंकवादियों के संपर्क उजागर हुए हैं। रेजिस्टेंस फ्रंट द्वारा किए गए दावे और लश्कर ए तैयबा से ज्ञात सोशल मीडिया हैंडल द्वारा इसको रीपोस्ट किया जाना इसकी पुष्टि करता है। चश्मदीद गवाहों और विभिन्न जांच एजेंसियों को उपलब्ध अन्य सूचनाओं के आधार पर हमलावरों की पहचान भी हुई है। हमारी इंटेलिजेंस ने इस टीम के योजनाकारों और उनके समर्थकों की जानकारी जुटाई है। इस हमले की रूपरेखा भारत में सीमा पार आतंकवाद को अंजाम देने के पाकिस्तान के लंबे ट्रैक रिकॉर्ड से भी जुड़ी हुई है, जिसके लिखित और स्पष्ट दस्तावेज उपलब्ध हैं। पाकिस्तान दुनिया भर में आतंकवादियों के लिए एक शरण स्थल के रूप में पहचान बना चुका है। यहां अंतर्राष्ट्रीय स्तर पर प्रतिबंधित आतंकवादी सजा पाने से बचे रहते हैं। इसके अलावा पाकिस्तान ने इस मुद्दे पर विश्व और फाइनेंशियल एक्शन टास्क फोर्स जैसे अंतर्राष्ट्रीय मंचों को जानबूझकर गुमराह करने के लिए भी जाना जाता है। साजिद मीर का मामला, जिसमें इस आतंकवादी को पाकिस्तान ने मृत घोषित कर दिया था और फिर अंतर्राष्ट्रीय दबाव के परिणाम स्वरूप वो जीवित पाया गया, इसका सबसे स्पष्ट उदाहरण है। यह स्वाभाविक है कि पहलगाम में हुए इस हमले से जम्मू और कश्मीर के साथ साथ भारत के अन्य भागों में भी आक्रोश देखा गया। हमलों के बाद भारत सरकार ने स्वाभाविक रूप से पाकिस्तान के साथ संबंधों को लेकर कुछ कदम उठाए। आप सभी उन निर्णयों से अवगत हैं जिसकी घोषणा 23 अप्रैल को की गई थी। तथापि यह आवश्यक समझा गया कि 22 अप्रैल के हमले के अपराधियों और उनके योजनाकारों को न्याय के कटघरे में लाया जाए। हमलों के एक पखवाड़े के बाद भी पाकिस्तान द्वारा अपने क्षेत्र या अपने नियंत्रण वाले क्षेत्रों में आतंकवादियों की इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के विरुद्ध कार्यवाही करने के लिए कोई स्पष्ट कदम नहीं उठाया गया है। उल्टे वो इनकार करने और आरोप लगाने में ही लिप्त रहा है। पाकिस्तान आधारित आतंकवादी मॉड्यूल्स पर हमारी खुफिया निगरानी ने संकेत दिया है कि भारत के विरुद्ध आगे भी हमले हो सकते हैं। अतः इनको रोकना और इनसे निपटना दोनों को बेहद आवश्यक समझा गया। आज सुबह जैसा कि आपको ज्ञात होगा, भारत ने इस तरह के सीमा पार हमलों का जवाब देने और उन्हें रोकने तथा उनका प्रतिरोध करने के अपने अधिकार का प्रयोग किया है। ये कार्यवाही नपीतुली, नॉन एस्केलेटरी, आनुपातिक और जिम्मेदारीपूर्ण है। यह आतंकवाद की इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर को समाप्त करने और भारत में भेजे जाने वाले संभावित आतंकवादियों को अक्षम बनाने पर केंद्रित है। आपको यह भी स्मरण होगा कि 25 अप्रैल 2025 को संयुक्त राष्ट्र सुरक्षा परिषद ने पहलगाम आतंकवादी हमले पर एक प्रेस वक्तव्य जारी किया था, जिसमें आतंकवाद के इस निंदनीय कार्य के अपराधियों, आयोजकों, फाइनेंसरों और प्रायोजकों को जवाबदेह ठहराने और उन्हें न्याय के दायरे में लाने की आवश्यकता पर जोर दिया गया था। भारत की आज की इस कार्यवाही को इसी संदर्भ में देखा जाना चाहिए। Good morning. Thank you all for joining this briefing. As you are all aware, on April 22, 2025, Pakistani and Pakistan-trained terrorists belonging to the Lashkar-e-Taiba carried out a savage attack on Indian tourists at Pahalgam in Jammu and Kashmir in India. They murdered 26 people, including one national of Nepal, causing the largest number of civilian casualties in a terrorist attack in India since the 26 November 2008 attacks in Mumbai. The attack in Pahalgam was marked by extreme barbarity, with the victims mostly killed with headshots from close range and in front of their families. Family members were deliberately traumatized through the manner of the killing, accompanied by the exhortation that they should take back the message. The attack was clearly driven by the objective of undermining the normalcy returning to Jammu and Kashmir. In particular, it was designed to impact the mainstay of the economy, tourism, with a record 23 million tourists visiting the valley last year. The calculation, presumably, was that harming growth and development in the Union territory would help keep it backward and create fertile ground for continued cross-border terrorism from Pakistan. The manner of the attack was also driven by an objective of provoking communal discord, both in Jammu and Kashmir and the rest of the nation. It is to the credit of the government and the people of India that these designs were foiled. A group calling itself the Resistance Front has claimed responsibility for the attack. This group is a front for the UN-proscribed Pakistani terrorist group Lashkar-e-Taiba. It is notable that India had given inputs about the TRF in the half-yearly report to the monitoring team of the UN's 1267 Sanctions Committee in May and November 2024, bringing out its role as a cover for Pakistan-based terrorist groups. Earlier too, in December 2023, India had informed the monitoring team about Lashkar and Jaish-e-Mohammed operating through small terror groups such as the TRF. Pakistan's pressure to remove references to TRF in the April 25 UN Security Council press statement is notable in this regard. Investigations into the Pahalgam terror attack have brought out the communication notes of terrorists in and to Pakistan. The claims made by the Resistance Front and their reposting by known social media handles of the Lashkar-e-Taiba speak for themselves. Identification of the attackers based on eyewitness accounts as well as other information available to law enforcement agencies has also progressed. Our intelligence has developed an accurate picture of the planners and backers of this team. The features of this attack also tie in with Pakistan's long track record of perpetrating cross-border terror in India, which is well documented and beyond question. Pakistan also has a well-deserved reputation as a haven for terrorists from around the world, with internationally proscribed terrorists enjoying impunity there. In addition, Pakistan has been known to willfully mislead the world and international forums, such as the Financial Action Task Force, on this issue. The Sajid Mir case, in which this terrorist was declared dead, and then, in response to international pressure, brought back to life found alive and arrested is the most glaring example. The latest attack in Pahalgam has understandably generated deep anger in Jammu and Kashmir and in other parts of India. Following the attacks, the government of India naturally responded with a set of initial measures relating to our engagement with Pakistan. You're all aware of the decisions that were announced on the 23rd of April. However, it was deemed essential that the perpetrators and planners of the 22nd April attack be brought to justice. Despite a fortnight having passed since the attacks, there has been no demonstrable step from Pakistan to take action against the terrorist infrastructure on its territory or on territory under its control. Instead, all it has indulged in are denials and allegations. Our intelligence monitoring of Pakistan-based terrorist modules indicated that further attacks against India were impending. There was thus a compulsion both to deter and to preempt. Earlier this morning, as you would be aware, India exercised its right to respond and preempt as well as deter more such cross-border attacks. These actions were measured, non-escalatory, proportionate, and responsible. They focused on dismantling the terrorist infrastructure and disabling terrorists likely to be sent across to India. You would also recall that the Security Council on 25th April 2025 had issued a press statement on the Pahalgam terror attack, underlining, and I quote, the need to hold perpetrators, organizers, financiers, and sponsors of this reprehensible act of terrorism accountable and bring them to justice, unquote. India's latest actions should be seen in this context. Joining me for this briefing on our actions earlier this morning are Colonel Sophia Qureshi and Wing Commander Vyomika Singh. I will request them to share some details regarding Operation Sindoor with all of you.
सुप्रभात देवियों और सज्जनों, मैं कर्नल सोफिया कुरैशी और मेरे साथ विंग कमांडर व्योमिका सिंह आज आपको 6 से 7 मई 2025 की रात 1:05 से 1:30 बजे के बीच भारतीय सशस्त्र बलों द्वारा अंजाम दिए गए ऑपरेशन सिंदूर के बारे में जानकारी देंगे। ऑपरेशन सिंदूर 22 अप्रैल को पहलगाम में हुए विभत्स आतंकवादी हमले के शिकार मासूम नागरिकों व उनके परिवारों को न्याय देने के लिए लॉन्च किया गया था। इस कार्रवाई में 9 टेररिस्ट कैंप्स को टारगेट किया गया और पूरी तरह से इसे बर्बाद किया गया। पाकिस्तान में पिछले 3 दशकों से टेरर इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर का निर्माण हो रहा है। इसमें रिक्रूटमेंट, इंडोक्ट्रिनेशन सेंटर्स, ट्रेनिंग एरियाज व लॉन्च पैड शामिल थे, जो पाकिस्तान और पाक अधिकृत जम्मू कश्मीर POJK दोनों में फैले हैं।
Operation Sindoor was launched by Indian Armed Forces to deliver justice to the victims of Pahalgam terror attack and their families. 9 terrorist camps were targeted and successfully destroyed. Over the last 3 decades, Pakistan has systematically built terror infrastructure. It is a complex web of recruitment and indoctrination centers, training areas for initial and refresher courses, and launch pads for handlers. These camps are located both in Pakistan as well as Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir areas. Some of the well-known training camps are located, as you can see on the screen. They are distributed from Savai Nala in the north, counting to approximately 21, ending at Bhagalpur to the south.
इन लक्ष्यों का चयन विश्वसनीय इंटेलिजेंस सूचनाओं के आधार पर हुआ ताकि आतंक गतिविधियों की रीढ़ तोड़ी जा सके और यह खास ध्यान दिया गया कि निर्दोष नागरिकों और सिविलियन इंस्टॉलेशन को नुकसान ना पहुंचे।
The selection of these targets for Operation Sindoor was based on credible intelligence inputs and role of these facilities in perpetrating the terror activities. The locations were so selected to avoid damage to civilian infrastructures and loss of any civilian lives. This was done with due diligence, and the camps selected for targeting and their engagement will now be shown to you one by one.
POJK के टारगेट मैं आपको बताना चाहूंगी। सबसे पहले सवाई नाला कैंप मुजफ्फराबाद, जो कि POJK के लाइन ऑफ कंट्रोल से 30 किलोमीटर दूर है। यह एक लश्कर तौयबा का ट्रेनिंग सेंटर था। 20 अक्टूबर 2024 सोनमर्ग, 24 अक्टूबर 24 गुलमर्ग, 22 अप्रैल 2025 पहलगाम, इन हमलों के आतंकियों ने यहीं से प्रशिक्षण लिया था। सैयदना बिलाल कैंप मुजफ्फराबाद, यह एक जैश ए मोहम्मद का स्टेजिंग एरिया है। यह हथियार, विस्फोटक और जंगल सर्वाइवल ट्रेनिंग का केंद्र भी था। गुलपुर कैंप कोटली, यह LOC से 30 किलोमीटर दूर था। लश्कर ए तौयबा का बेस था, जो रजौरी पुंछ में सक्रिय था। 20 अप्रैल 2023 को पुंछ में और 9 जून 2024 को तीर्थ यात्रियों के बस हमले में यहीं से आतंकी को ट्रेन किया गया था। बरनाला कैंप बिंबर, ये LOC से 9 किलोमीटर दूर है। यहां पर हथियार हैंडलिंग, IED व जंगल सर्वाइवल का प्रशिक्षण केंद्र था। अब्बास कैंप कोटली, यह LOC से 13 किलोमीटर दूर है। लश्कर तौयबा का फिदाइन यहां तैयार होता था। इसकी कैपेसिटी 15 टेररिस्ट को ट्रेन करने की थी। अब मैं पाकिस्तान के अंदर के टारगेट से अवगत कराना चाहूंगी। पहला, सर्जल कैंप सियालकोट, यह अंतरराष्ट्रीय सीमा से 6 किलोमीटर की दूरी पर है, सांबा कठवा के सामने। मार्च 2025 में जम्मू एंड कश्मीर पुलिस के 4 जवानों को की जो हत्या की गई थी, उन आतंकवादियों को इसी जगह पर ट्रेन किया गया था। दूसरा, महमूना जाया कैंप सियालकोट, यह 18 से 12 किलोमीटर IB से दूर था। हिजबुल मुजाहिदीन का बहुत बड़ा कैंप था। यह कठुआ जम्मू क्षेत्र में आतंक फैलाने का नियंत्रण केंद्र था। पठानकोट एयरफोर्स बेस पर किया गया हमला भी इसी कैंप से प्लान और डायरेक्ट किया गया था। मरकज ताइबा मुरीद के, यह IB से 18 से 25 किलोमीटर दूरी पर है। 2008 के मुंबई हमले के आतंकी भी यहीं से प्रशिक्षित हुए थे। अजमल कसब व डेविड हेडली भी यहां ट्रेन हुए थे।
आगे दूसरा आया। टारगेट 10 हुआ है इसमें भी। टारगेट 10 हुआ, एंक्लोजर सेम ही है। 7 इट इज हिट द टारगेट। हाँ हाँ। पीछे आ गया सर इम्पैक्ट
मरकज सुभान अल्लाह भावलपुर ये इंटरनेशनल बाउंड्री से 100 किलोमीटर दूर है। जैश ए मोहम्मद का मुख्यालय था। यहाँ पर रिक्रूटमेंट, ट्रेनिंग व इंडोक्ट्रिनेशन का केंद्र भी था। शीर्ष आतंकी अक्सर यहाँ आते थे। मैं आप सबको बताना चाहती हूँ कि किसी भी सैन्य ठिकाने का निशाना नहीं बनाया गया और अभी तक किसी तरह की नागरिक क्षति की रिपोर्ट नहीं है। धन्यवाद। जय हिंद।
The strike on the terror camps were undertaken through precision capability, as shown to you. A niche technology weapons with careful selection of warheads was ensured so that there will be no collateral damage. The point of impact in each of the target was a specific building or a group of buildings. All the targets were neutralized with clinical efficiency, and the results reiterate the professionalism of the Indian Armed Forces in the planning and execution of their operations. No military establishments were targeted. India has demonstrated considerable restraint in its response. However, it must be said that the Indian Armed Forces are fully prepared to respond to Pakistani misadventures, if any, that will escalate the situation. Jai Hind, and thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, friends in the media, I ask your indulgence today in view of the fact that this is still an evolving situation. We will therefore not be able to take questions and answers today, but we will come back for more updates and more briefings shortly. Thank you all very much for joining us this morning. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Viewers, that was a momentous press briefing by Vikram Misri, who is India's Foreign Secretary and Wing Commander Vyomika, and Colonel Qureshi. Both of them taking us through in minute detail the terror strikes that we have been bled by but responded to by India in a manner, viewers, that Pakistan will not forget. Remember, the entire press conference was set up with a video presentation of the terror strikes that have taken place on Indian soil going back to Parliament attack, viewers, in 2001. And we are talking about almost 24 years ago. Almost a generation of Indians has come and gone since that attack. That is how we have been bled by Pakistan over the years. And the stage was set using this video documentary, which was not more than 4 minutes, culminating in Operation Sindoor, which was, and we'll bring those pictures back to you, viewers, which was annotated in absolute detail with video evidence, lest anyone gets up and says nothing was hit on Pakistan soil or on POK. The Indian government has made it extremely clear today, very, very clear, that this was a non-escalatory strike, that this was a strike that was conducted against terror targets in Pakistan as well as in POK, which is Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, Indian soil, viewers. And that this was done across several of these terror bases in what Vikram Misri described is terror haven, Pakistan. I want to bring in Akash, Pallavi, and Payal. You heard the press conference. We're going to show you the clips of the strikes. This is, viewers, real-time information that was being conveyed to Prime Minister Modi, the NSA, and others who were watching this entire operation from the war room. They were watching in minute detail with minute-to-minute updates that were coming in, perhaps even second-to-second, real-time data that was being fed into the war room in the early hours of the morning. This is historic. Akash, run us through the targets first very quickly. The reason why they were chosen, of course, the wing commander and the colonel explained, but it would be helpful if you were to put it in perspective. This is very, very important today.
Right, Rahul, 2-3 things before coming to targets, where I want to mention that how this operation was conducted with full professionalism and how these officers have, in fact, proven that this was indeed a successful operation. It started at around 1:05 a.m. and in fact, was ended at around 1:30. Starting from choosing the targets, calculating, the sort of weapon and the sort of intensity that would help, and also executing it. It was a perfect professionalism by the Indian Armed Forces. And as far as these warheads are concerned, so we have been told, in fact, the officers mentioned it categorically, that how these warheads were in fact decided on the basis of target, where in case you want to target one building, two building, or a group of buildings together, it was ensured that no military establishment or no civilian building, is impacted. And in fact, we have seen reports where Pakistan has been alleging that, civilian population is impacted. The Indian Army and Indian Air Force are categorically saying that they have got views, they had intelligence, and on that basis only, these targets were hit. We have seen that how in 2023, Rahul, several attacks have happened in south of Pir Panjal, and Colonel Sophia Qureshi somewhere stressed that how several, groups, in fact, who were very much involved in these attacks, were getting training for, in these camps, which were the target today. In fact, it has been categorically mentioned that it was on the basis of the sort of intelligence that the agencies had. And in fact, these targets were deliberated upon before, carrying out this sort of operation. As far as these targets are concerned, so distant target, in fact, is going to 100 kilometers from the international border. Yes. We have been told. Two distant target, first one, of course, close to 100 kilometers, and second one close to 70 kilometers, was in fact, decided and chosen, on the basis of specific intelligence. And Indian Air Force somewhere, got engaged with this particular target.
Akash, just hold your thoughts, because what we're seeing on our screens is the replay of those visuals, and you can see not only have the airplanes been tracked, but also the targets that have been eliminated are very well lit up on your screens, viewers. This is evidence which is absolutely foolproof of not only the Indian military striking the targets. Pallavi was there at this particular convention center. Not only have we targeted, Pallavi, these targets with precision, but we've also ensured that there is no collateral damage. This is a momentous moment in India's military history.
Yes, in fact,
Go ahead.
Absolutely, and I think that's a very, very important point we all of us need to highlight, because that's the point which India is consistently raising, and all of those who were speaking, addressing that brief press statement, talked about precision and talked about there was no misadventure from our side, and how it was well documented, how it was well scripted, well organized, and as of now, no casualty, civilian casualty has been reported. But if you look at the kind of PPT presentation that we're putting out, Rahul, of all the targets that Indian side made, it very clearly also showed that they were far away from where the civilian installations were. I think this point is something which India is repeatedly highlighting to the world and to Pakistan, that we are not like Pakistan. We are a responsible country, we are a vibrant democracy, but we had to retaliate because enough was enough. In fact, this press interaction did begin with a sequence of multiple terror attacks which were done by Pakistan, whether it was a parliament attack 26/11 about our Faujis, our Jawans, our innocent people, and finally those very tragic pictures of the 26 tourists who were targeted at Pahalgam was one of the last slides which were shown. It was then the background was created and the background was given as to why we were actually left with no choice but to go ahead with Operation Sindoor. And Operation Sindoor was not a knee-jerk reaction. There were days of planning, there were days of before the final execution took place, and the kind of visuals which were put out was very clearly giving us the details of how many kilometers away from the border, how many kilometers away actually, or how the concentration really was on the terror hideouts.
So just quickly go across
That's one very big point which came across.
Yes, just let me just go across to Payal, because there is, of course, a important cabinet meet that is now taking place at 7 LKM. Pallavi, just give me a few seconds. Let's get the update from Payal on that. And I also want to bring in Arunima. Payal, big meeting now.
Well, absolutely, Rahul. Just before the cabinet meeting begins, where all the ministers come in, NS Ajit Doval is already inside the Lokalyan Marg residence of the Prime Minister. Our top ministers, Amit Shah, Rajnath Singh, Nirmala Sitharaman, Dr. Jaishankar, they are all inside 7 LKM. We are given to understand. And the CCS is taking place. The CCS is expected to be a brief meeting in which the Prime Minister gets a physical briefing of what it is transpired in the last few hours. Of course, he's been getting by second the briefing that has been happening to him. NSA Ajit Doval has been briefing him as well. But it is going to be important because, there's a formal CCS which actually has to meet on a situation like this. The Prime Minister, we're given to understand, is getting briefed by the CCS, and after which the cabinet will really begin. And like I've been reporting from the morning, this is going to be a very, very important cabinet, not just from the point of view of the decision that the government is going to take, but also a big encouragement, for the alliance partners, essentially, who have, many of them have worked with Prime Minister Modi in the past, but for many, it's the first time, especially the young people, it's the first time around that they rub shoulders with the Prime Minister on an occasion like this, watch him close and personal, in a crisis like this, that he's been able to tide over and actually do what the people of the country really wanted him to do as well. So it'll be important if he says anything to them in the cabinet meeting, or he, in fact, expresses himself, because Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Rahul is a man of very, very few words and even more few expressions as well. So all eyes on the 7 Lokalyan Marg residents. We are given to understand that currently the CCS is underway, and in the next 10 to 15 minutes, you can have the Union Cabinet begin.
Okay, well, India's made a massive point. Arunima, let me bring you in also. India's made a massive point this morning. Not only at 104, when it began striking targets across POJK and, of course, Pakistan proper, but also now in this press conference. Break it down for our viewers who are just connecting to us. What exactly is the thrust and parry, really, of the Indian action? What were we trying to convey through this press conference? It's very important that we get the message across to the public.
Rahul, it was a packed press conference room with a lot of international media present as well. And therefore, the target audience of the PC was not just the domestic constituency, but also the international audience. 2 points that clearly came out of the PC. One, that even the weapons that were used, the missiles that were used, were chosen in a way so that there is no collateral damage. There was no civilian targets that were looked at. There were no military targets that were looked at. And there is enough video evidence, enough photographic evidence to show that the camps that were targeted were Jaish-e-Mohammed, Lashkar-e-Toiba and Hizbul Mujahideen camps. For example, the Mahmood Joya camp, there was slide and there was video that was shown that this was a Hizbul camp 18 kilometers from the international border, and this is where the Pathankot attack conspiracy was hatched. Next came the terrorist camp in Markaz Taiba. This is Murid K. This is where Ajmal Kasab and David Coleman Headley were trained. So it's not as if any random theater was picked up and the strikes carried out. There were reasons to believe that these were camps where Hizbul, Jaish and Lashkar men were getting trained. The Jaish headquarters in Bahawalpur. We have multiple dossiers, multiple intelligence reports to know that this is where Masood Azhar and his terror factory runs. And if you see the videos that were also showed in the press conference, at the time when the target was logged and the strikes undertaken, there is video that shows that this was not a civilian area. This was, well covered, either in a forested area or in an area where there is no hospital nearby, there is no civilian population nearby. So this narrative that Pakistan was trying to push through, that India has killed unarmed civilians, that narrative, I think, we have exposed after this press conference. What was also said at the end of it is that we have shown restraint, Indian armed forces have shown restraint, But if Pakistan continues with its misadventure, India is ready to respond further.
Yes, this was an act of very reasonable and responsible action by India. This is the message that has gone out, viewers, to the wider international community, as well as, of course, anyone in our